Chapter 952. Night Sorrow continued to ponder if there were any loopholes. Yi Qianhua began to set up the formation. He was very proficient in formations, so he set them up very quickly. Yi Shang, give me some more spirit stones. I'll set up array formations everywhere. I won't hide the array formations so that everyone can see them. If you can't hold on, you can go in and hide. After Yi Qianhua finished setting up the array formations, he immediately activated them. Okay. Night Sorrow took out a storage ring and gave it to Yi Qianhua. However, Tai Shu Yan stopped him. She handed a storage ring to Yi Qianhua. Lu Qin and Yun Tianlong were both venerables. They could not participate in this war, so they were not here. The matter of resources was handled by Tai Shu Yan. Yi Qianhua continued to set up formations. He set up a large illusion formation, which meant that the enemy could also enter, but they couldn't attack. Both sides were blind in the illusion formation. Yi Shang asked the Candle Dragon to bring the Nether Beast Saint to identify them properly so that the plan would not be messed up. Night Sorrow chatted with his parents for a while, telling them to pay attention to their safety. When everything was ready, the teams split up. Andi Fei, Xueshi, you two have just become Saint Kings. Don't fight with people whose cultivation you can't see, Night Sorrow said to Xueshi and Wu Lingfei. Wu Lingfei and Xueshi nodded. They were at the bottom of the Saint Kings. It was easy for them to kill a peak saint, but they weren't a match for other Saint Kings. Night Sorrow, you haven't used the Golden Phoenix soft armor. Its power is different from before. It should be a mid-grade saint treasure. It's still useful. You have to use it in battle, Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. Yi Shang reached out and touched the Golden Phoenix soft armor. He nodded. He already knew some things. The Golden Phoenix soft armor was Wu Lingfei's natal armor. It would increase in power as Wu Lingfei's cultivation increased. In the past, Wu Lingfei had said that there was only one possibility for the Golden Phoenix flexible armor to shatter. At that time, Night Sorrow did not understand, but now he knew. If Wu Lingfei did not die, then the Golden Phoenix flexible armor would not shatter. Of course, it was not invincible. If it exceeded the defensive strength of the Golden Phoenix soft armor, then the energy would penetrate the soft armor and hurt the target. Don't worry about using it. It won't harm Andi Fei. Even if a Saint King's attack can't be blocked, it can still weaken it a little. Wu Lingfei was worried that Night Sorrow would have misgivings and not use it, so she reminded him. I understand, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Actually, you don't have to worry about the dancing Saint King. This king won't be able to kill him even if he just stands there, Zhu Jiuyun said. So powerful? Asked Wu Lingfei. It's true. Even if I attacked with my full strength, I could only exhaust his defensive energy. Zhu Jiuyun nodded. Night Sorrow, how strong is your body's defensive strength? Asked Xueshi. She knew that Night Sorrow's body was very strong, but after Night Sorrow had become a Saint King, she wasn't sure how strong his body was. It's the same as my cultivation. It won't cause any special damage. A high-level Saint King won't be able to break through my body's defenses. Night Sorrow nodded. What do you mean by your body's defenses? Asked Zhu Jiuyun. It means that if I don't use true qi or any other energy to protect my body, your attacks won't be able to break through my body. Night Sorrow said with a smile. He felt that the atmosphere was a little tense, so he wanted to encourage everyone. Then I'll try. Zhu Jiuyun did not believe him. She had never seen Night Sorrow's body's defenses before. In the past, she had only used true qi and other defensive energy attacks to temper her cultivation. Then come. Don't ruin my robes. Night Sorrow loosened his robes a little, revealing his chest. Really? Don't joke around. Zhu Jiuyun held her scimitar, not knowing whether to attack or not. I'm not joking. I'll also test it. Come on. Night Sorrow nodded. Seeing that Night Sorrow was very serious, Wu Lingfei and Xueshi did not stop him. Zhu Jiuyun used her 5-star Saint King cultivation and slashed at Night Sorrow's chest. Night Sorrow did not use any defensive energy, so Zhu Jiuyan's scimitar landed on his chest. Zhu Jiuyan's attack caused the skin on Night Sorrow's chest to cave in a little. Then, it returned to normal. As a halo of energy appeared, Zhu Jiuyan's scimitar was repelled. A 5-star saint can't break it. Use all your cultivation. I'll also test the strength of my body. Looking at the surprised Zhu Jiuyan, Night Sorrow nodded again. Zhu Jiuyan nodded and deathly primary energy flowed into his scimitar. Displaying his strongest cultivation base, he slashed at Yi Sorrow's chest once more. This time, black cracks appeared in space. It was clear to see just how powerful this attack was. But the scimitar did not manage to cut Night Sorrow's chest open. It was blocked by Night Sorrow's skin that was emitting a halo of time. It's okay. Night Sorrow said and tidied his robes. Long Xiansheng and the others were still fine. They had not reached the level of a high-level Saint King, so they did not know the strength of Zhu Jiuyan's attack. But as the person involved, Zhu Jiuyan knew the strength of his attack too well. But even so, Night Sorrow was unharmed. A 7-star Saint King can't hurt you. Zhu Jiuyan looked at Night Sorrow, who had tidied his robes, and asked. They can't. So when we fight, I can attract some of the firepower. You all just have to be careful. Night Sorrow said. Commander, what's your cultivation? Black Dragon Saint looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Peak Saint King. Zhu Jiuyan answered for Night Sorrow. Everyone, don't worry. The rules of the 9 zones have been perfected. Those above the Peak Saint King realm can't enter, and I can fight anyone below the King realm. So don't be too pressured. If you can't hold on, just retreat. I'll kill slowly. Night Sorrow said. Everyone nodded. If Saint King realm cultivators could not enter, then Night Sorrow, who was a Peak Saint King, was invincible. Deputy Commander Taishu, should we have a drink and then have a good battle? Sky Underworld Saint looked at Xiaolongjun and asked. Taishu Yen nodded and went to make the arrangements. Quick L, quick L, quick L, quick LQ. Commander, we don't have much lifespan left. We can fight this 10,000-year calamity, but we'll have to rely on you next time. Shang Luo said. This is the last time. Night Sorrow looked at Shang Luo and said. But the ancient records say that every 10,000 years, there will be a calamity. Xian Wenxiu looked at Night Sorrow and said. That's because our spatial world's level is low. It's suppressed by the profound heaven world. By chance, I refined a high-level world, and this high-level world merged with the 9 zones world. As the 9 zones world grows, it will become a high-level world. The profound heaven world cannot suppress it. Night Sorrow said. Good. Then there's nothing to worry about. Long Xianxing said. Then let's fight. 1 is enough. 2 is a win. Flying Tiger Saint, who had already regrown his limbs, said. I'm wasting my breath. Just follow my strategy. Outside of the battlefield, you're my seniors, but here, you have to follow my strategy. I don't want to see anyone die. Night Sorrow roared at the Flying Tiger Saint without holding back. Speak. Chapter 953. Genius 1 second. Remember love. Go to Little Net to provide you with some interesting reading. LSS Qingxiu 2. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Flying Tiger Saint bowed to Night Sorrow. He knew that his words conflicted with Night Sorrow's thoughts. Love. Go to Little Net's. Night Sorrow's philosophy was that he didn't want any casualties. He put people first. The meat and wine are here. At this time, Taishu Yen brought people over to deliver the food and wine. In a moment, when everyone goes back, put down the teleportation formation crystal and completely seal off Sky-bearing City. There won't be any chance of communication with the outside world, Yishan said as he watched Taishu Yen and the others come out of the teleportation formation. He had found this loophole. After the people delivering the resources delivered some more resources, Taishu Yen removed the teleportation formation and gave the teleportation crystal to Night Sorrow. It was safest in Night Sorrow's hands. Night Sorrow was invincible. Everyone else could die. 2 days later, a shadow appeared in the sky above Qingtian City. Then, the space began to tremble. Prepare for battle. Remember, if you can't hold on, come closer to me or enter the formation. After the battle, I hope that all of you are here. Night Sorrow stretched out his arm and the reincarnation spear appeared in his hand. At the same time, the space-time pagoda appeared on his body. At this time, only his 3 fiancées were in the pagoda. As Night Sorrow spoke, the space above Qingtian City trembled violently. This was because the mysterious heaven world and the 9 regions world were clashing. The last time the 2 worlds clashed, cracks appeared in the 9 regions world. It seems that our 9 regions world is much more stable than it was 10,000 years ago, Yi Qianhua said as he looked at the sky. At this time, Shang Jingchun was standing at the intersection of the mysterious heaven world and the 9 regions world with Gong Yanglai and a group of people. Alright, let's go. Shang Jingchun waved his arm and gave the order. This time, he brought 8 saint kings, 50 saints, and a great expert like Gong Yanglai. Shang Jingchun felt that these people were enough. 2 peak-stage saint kings, 6 mid-stage saint kings, and 50 high-level saints were definitely enough to massacre the entire 9 regions world. Furthermore, he himself was also a peak-stage saint king. At this moment, he was still carrying a cage. Inside the cage was a man wearing a black-stained long robe. Gong Yanglai waved the war blade in his hand, creating a spatial barrier. Then, he flew towards the 9-domain world. But in reality, the effect shocked Gong Yanglai. After he left the heaven profound world, he could not enter the 9-domain world. The space around him kept collapsing, and he was trapped in the turbulent flow of space. After failing to break through twice, Gong Yanglai returned to the heaven profound world. Commander Lai, what's going on? Shang Jingchun asked. The 9 domains world's world principles have been strengthened, and this commander has been pushed into the void. No matter how this commander flies, the turbulence caused by the void collapses. Can you see if a Saint King can enter? Gong Yanglai said. Bo Qing is fearless. Give it a try, Bo Qing Han said to a middle-aged man. This time, the Bo Qing clan's patriarch, Bo Qing Han, and the 3rd prince were in charge of this massacre. Bo Qing Han had brought a peak Saint King, Bo Qing Wu. He was a peak Saint King, but he did not want to go. He felt that as the patriarch of a large clan in the South Sky dynasty, he had to respect his status. He disdained to participate in this kind of thing. Yes. The middle-aged man with a mustache nodded to Bo Qing Han. He waved the sword in his hand and broke the spatial barrier. Then, he entered the 9-domain world. 3rd Prince, this commander is helpless. You can only go by yourselves. A part of the 9-domain sources is in your hands. Just use it as you see fit, said Gong Yanglai, who was wearing black armor and had a baleful look on his face. At this moment, he was very unhappy. Back then, when Clear Sky Saint King had forced him to retreat, he had planned to enter the 9-domain world to vent his anger. But now, he did not have the chance. Okay. Shang Jingchun nodded. He waved his sword and opened the spatial barrier. Then, he lifted the cage and led the people behind him into the 9-domain world. Seeing Bo Qing Wu, Shang Jingchun nodded. Let's go. Shang Jingchun and the others appeared in the sky above the Qingtian region. After flying for a while, they saw Night Sorrow and the others. Then, they landed on the ground. At this moment, Qingtian City was surrounded by white fog. The Great Cycle Formation and the Thousand Illusion Formation were activated and enveloped Qingtian City. This time, the defensive formation only enveloped Qingtian City. It did not have any attacking power inside Qingtian City. The main reason was that the 9-domain world did not have the ability or the resources to cover Qingtian City with formations. Shang Jingchun and the others landed in Qingtian City's plaza. Looks like you're prepared. So what if you're prepared? I will turn the 9-domain world into ruins. It will become a dead world, Shang Jingchun said to Night Sorrow and the others. Go. If words could kill, you would have done it, Night Sorrow replied coldly. Night Sorrow felt that the situation was very serious because the other side had 3 peak Saint Kings and 6 mid-level Saint Kings. The main thing now was to see if Zhu Jiuyun could handle 1 peak Saint King. He and his clone could only face 2 peak Saint Kings. Hee, this time is not as good as last time. Last time, there were 3 high-level Saint Kings. This time, there are only 2, Shang Jingchun sneered. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. You will pay the price. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and looked at the cage beside Shang Jingchun. Shameless boasting. Do you know this person? I heard that he's the ruler of the 9-domain world's Night Moon dynasty. Are there any remnants of the Night clan among you? Shang Jingchun pulled the chains on the cage and made the person in the cage look up at the people from the 9-domain world. Moon Empress. Xia Lanjun was shocked and astonished. Grandfather. Yi Linghuan roared angrily because he recognized the person in the cage. Hearing Yi Linghuan's words, the person in the cage opened his eyes and looked at Yi Linghuan. Linghuan, leave quickly. You are not their match. After hearing the conversation between the person in the cage and Yi Linghuan, as well as the way Xia Lanjun addressed him, how could Night Sorrow not know who the person in the cage was? It was the Night Moon dynasty's Moon Empress, Yi Tian. Night Sorrow grabbed Yi Linghuan, who was rushing forward. Let me handle this. You handle it? How will you handle it? Shang Jingchun looked at Night Sorrow like a cat looking at a mouse. The 9-domain world only had 1 peak Saint King, Night Sorrow, so he was not worried. He wanted to see the struggle of Night Sorrow and the others. Didn't you want to turn the 9-domain world into ruins? In your eyes, we are all dead people. Then what's the point of keeping that cage? Night Sorrow asked. It's not very useful. It's just a joke. The 9-domain world is just a joke. Once I kill you all and find the shattered source of the 9-domain world, everything will end. Shang Jingchun tossed the source stone that the 9-domain world had lost in his left hand. In his eyes, the 9-domain world was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 954. Genius 1 second remembers love. Go to the small net to provide you with interesting reading. LSS Qingxiu 2. When Shang Jingchun took out the origin stone, Night Sorrow confirmed that it was the missing part of the 9 regions world's origin. Therefore, he directly used the 9 regions world's origin power and the law of nothingness to suppress it. Then, he controlled the 9 regions world's origin pearls to cooperate with the law of nothingness to guide it. Fix it. Shang Jingchun shouted when the origin stone left his hand. He used the law of nothingness to suppress the flying origin stone, and at the same time, he flew forward to grab it. Break! Night Sorrow roared and rushed forward. He controlled the law of nothingness that wrapped around the origin stone and shook it violently in all directions. It broke Shang Jingchun's law of suppression and also shook the origin stone to fly towards Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow's glabella shone brightly. It wrapped around the origin stone that was flying towards him and pulled it into his spirit sea. Then, it entered the 9 regions world's origin pearls and merged with them. With the merging of the 9 regions world's origin pearls, the shaking in the air disappeared. Because of the merging of the origin pearls, the law of nothingness of the 9 regions world was raised to another level. The Heaven Mysteries world could no longer suppress or shake it. At this time, Night Sorrow and Shang Jingchun officially faced each other. Shang Jingchun's green longsword slashed towards Night Sorrow. Most Y New Chapter Z. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and directly clashed with Shang Jingchun's longsword. Then, both of them flew back. Night Sorrow controlled the origin stone to enter his body and did not use its full power. Therefore, this move was a draw. Kill! Shang Jingchun roared. He was already furious. Because he was careless, he had suffered a loss. The origin stone was snatched away by Night Sorrow. With Shang Jingchun's order, the people of the Heaven Mysteries world moved. They started to attack the 9 regions world's camp. Bo Qing fearlessly charged toward Night Sorrow. He wanted to join forces with Shang Jingchun to kill Night Sorrow because Night Sorrow was the only peak stage Saint King in the 9 regions world. Night Sorrow gritted his teeth. His body shook, and his soul doppelganger appeared. Then, with a flash, it charged toward another peak stage Saint King. He planned to let his main body withstand the pressure, and then let the 9 Hell King and his doppelganger make the first move. This way, the situation would be easier to control. The battle began. When enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. Both sides fought fiercely. The 3 peak holy kings were all taken care of by Night Sorrow. Zhu Jillian himself and his doppelganger rushed toward the opponent's middle holy king. Long Xiansheng and Xian Wenxiu also rushed toward the opponent's middle holy king. They were 4-star holy kings, and their cultivation levels were not as high as the opponent's. However, they could still hold on. They could see the situation. As long as they could hold on, it would be fine. Xuexi and Wu Lingfei both faced a middle holy king, but at this time, there was still one more middle holy king that no one stopped. Realizing the problem, the 9 Hell King's true body flashed and directly blocked the mid-level holy kings who were not obstructing them. Like Yi Shang, her true body was fighting 1 against 2, and her doppelganger was also suppressing 1. In a battle between saints, the 9 regions world was also at a disadvantage. This was because the opponent had 50 saints, and their strength was too strong. If you can't hold on, then enter the array. Night Sorrow opened his mouth and shouted. In this battle, the deciding factor was the Saint King level. Therefore, he did not want any saints to die. Night Sorrow's main body was suppressing Bo Qing fearlessly. This was because Bo Qing was slightly weaker than Shang Jingchun. Now, he wanted to kill the weaker Saint King and expand his advantage. Shang Jingchun and Bo Qing fearlessly were very shocked. This was because Night Sorrow was too strong. Neither of them could withstand his attacks. Night Sorrow's power of rule suppressed them very strongly. If it was not 2 against 1, they would be defeated in a moment. Night Sorrow also knew that as long as his main body could control Shang Jingchun and Bo Qing fearlessly, it would be fine. This was because his doppelganger would soon have a breakthrough and possess 90% of his main body's strength. The opponent would not be able to withstand his doppelganger's powerful attacks. For Night Sorrow, the difference between his main body and his doppelganger was only 10% of his strength and without the light of merit. The difference in combat strength was not big. In addition, his doppelganger could also use the world's origin power to suppress. During the battle, Night Sorrow also observed the surrounding situation. He realized that Zhu Jillian's main body was under the greatest pressure. She had just become a 7-star saint. Fighting 2 6-star holy kings head-on was still very stressful. However, her doppelganger had an absolute advantage. However, as the battle continued, the 9 domain saint level fell into a disadvantage. This was because the opponent had too many saints and their levels were very high. Night Sorrow was a little impatient. This was because he had family members among the saints. At this moment, Night Sorrow's doppelganger began to attack without defending. He wanted to establish an advantage as soon as possible. Night Sorrow's doppelganger attacked wildly. His opponent could not withstand it. The strength of Night Sorrow's doppelganger was far superior to his. In addition, he could use the 9 domain's origin power to suppress. His opponent could not withstand it. When Night Sorrow's doppelganger used a soul destruction slash to attack the opponent's divine ocean, it followed up with a void extreme kill, annihilating the opponent's neck region. Just as this peak stage Holy King's soul was about to leave his body and escape, Night Sorrow's doppelganger used a spatial crack to cut through space, directly shattering his soul and head. After killing his opponent, Night Sorrow's doppelganger kept the storage rings and weapons of the dead. Then, he rushed toward Zhu Jillian's main body's opponent. He wanted to resolve Zhu Jillian's crisis first and release her at the same time. That way, Zhu Jillian's main body would have the ability to crush the other mid-level Holy Kings. Night Sorrow's doppelganger could kill a peak stage Holy King. Killing a mid-level Holy King was a matter of moments. After a few consecutive shots, he used a soul destruction slash. Then, he finished off the mid-level peak stage Holy King with another shot. After that, Night Sorrow's doppelganger took over another opponent of Zhu Jiuyan's main body and began to attack violently. He did not defend at all. A 6-star Holy King could not break through his body's defense. After a few shots, he finished off his opponent again. Ignoring Zhu Jiuyan's main body and doppelganger, who were suppressing a mid-level Holy King, Night Sorrow's doppelganger rushed toward Wu Lingfei and Xuexi. They were both 1-star Holy Kings. Now that they were being suppressed by their opponents, they could die at any time. Therefore, he was anxious. Seeing Night Sorrow's doppelganger rushing over, this mid-level Holy King's soul almost left his body. He had seen how Night Sorrow killed a peak stage Holy King. How could he withstand it? Feeling fear, he turned and ran. Can you run? Night Sorrow's doppelganger used the world's origin laws to suppress him, directly reducing his speed. Then, he used a void extreme kill to destroy his body. After wrapping the dead person's storage ring and weapon into the storage ring, Night Sorrow's doppelganger rushed toward the main body's battlefield. At this moment, Shang Jingchun had become berserk. His battle prowess rose sharply, and he was a threat to Night Sorrow's main body. Moreover, with his continuous violent attacks, he had already turned the situation around. Long Xuanqing's main body was a dragon turtle. His natal holy treasure was a defensive treasure. There was no problem with his safety. Xian Wenxiu also had a defensive high-grade holy treasure. Although his attacks were being suppressed, there was no risk of him being killed for the time being. In addition, Xuexi and Wu Lingfei were both released. This was a nightmare for the saints of the heaven profound world. Chapter 955. It could be said that the situation of the battle had changed from the moment Night Sorrow's soul clone killed that peak stage Saint King. The moment his opponent was killed, the 9 regions world's victory tilted towards them. Night Sorrow's soul clone blocked Bo Qin Wu Wei, while his main body fought against Shang Jingchun, whose battle prowess had skyrocketed. He wanted to save Yi Tian. That was his ancestor. He could not watch Yi Tian suffer anymore. The moment he saw Yi Tian, Night Sorrow was very touched. Yi Tian was too pitiful. Night Moon's White King battle armor was covered in black spots. What were the black spots? They were dried blood stains. The chains had pierced through his limbs and locked onto his bones. Just thinking about the pain made one's heart tremble. What touched Night Sorrow the most was Yi Tian's unyielding gaze. However, Shang Jingchun had a spatial treasure on him. The moment he fought with Night Sorrow, he kept the cage. Thus, Night Sorrow wanted to kill him. Only by killing him could he save Yi Tian. The battle continued. People died continuously. There were also people from the 9 regions world dying. True Sea Saint died in battle. Black Dragon Saint died in battle. Nether Beast Saint died in battle. This was a situation that had not happened for long after the battle had started. Many of the saints that had descended from the heaven profound world were high-level saints. They were of a higher level than the 9 domain world's honorables. Being targeted by 2 high-level saints meant certain death. The situation changed after Night Sorrow finished off his opponent. That was because he released a few Saint Kings. Wu Lingfei's main body and soul clone chased after the saints from the heaven profound world and massacred them. Xuexi was the same. Her speed was at its peak. If anyone on her side was in danger, she could save them in time. After Zhu Jiuyan finished off her opponent, the situation completely tilted towards the 9 regions world. Her main body and soul clone took care of Long Xianxing and Xian Wenxiu, allowing the 2 of them to kill the saints from the heaven profound world. Kuei Long. Shang Jingchun, who was being suppressed by Night Sorrow's main body, roared. Following that, a humanoid beast appeared and attacked Night Sorrow's main body together with him. A peak stage Saint King beast. Night Sorrow saw its cultivation level. This ferocious beast that had the same body as Xiao Lu was a peak stage Saint King. After releasing the beast, Shang Jingxuan's eyes were bloodshot, and he joined the beast in attacking Night Sorrow. "Damn it," he said. "I had a chance to refine your core nascent soul into an out-of-body incarnation. You're going to die today." Night Sorrow's protective barrier changed to the spatial attribute. He dodged the berserk Kuei Long and attacked Shang Jingchun. After all, Shang Jingchun was Kuei Long's master. At this time, the battle between Night Sorrow's avatar and Bo Qing Fearless was about to end. With 90% of the original body's strength, Night Sorrow wasn't someone that Bo Qing Fearless could resist. After a while, Bo Qing Fearless was killed by Night Sorrow's avatar. At this time, there were only sporadic battles. This was because most of the saints had been killed by the Saint Kings from the 9 Regions World Camp. This king will bring reinforcements later. All of you will die. Seeing that they had lost the battle, Shang Jingchun didn't plan to continue fighting with Night Sorrow. He wasn't a match for Night Sorrow in the first place. Furthermore, after Night Sorrow's avatar killed Bo Qing Fearless, it blocked Kuei Long. Shang Jingxuan's body flashed as he flew towards the sky. He wanted to break through the spatial barrier and return to the heaven profound world. Not only did he want to go back to get reinforcements, he also wanted to escape. How could Night Sorrow let him escape? He chased after him. He wanted to kill Shang Jingchun, but he also wanted to save Yi Tian. Night Sorrow also knew what Shang Jingxuan's spatial treasure was. It was a golden drum that he had always used for defense. The golden drum's defense was very strong. Night Sorrow couldn't break through it a few times. After that, Night Sorrow dodged the drum and attacked Shang Jingchun. It was the 9 Regions origin energy that told Night Sorrow not to attack the drum. This was because once the drum was broken, everything inside would be destroyed. Night Sorrow definitely wouldn't be able to survive. Chapter J, the latest chapter. With the drum's defense, Shang Jingxuan's escape was much smoother. Heaven profound world. Not good. I'll go inform the Emperor. Bo Qing clan's peak Saint King Bo Qing Fearless has died. Many saints' life tablets have shattered. When Bo Qing Fearless was killed, Bo Qinghan's expression changed. He hurriedly left some instructions to Gong Yang Lai and left the spatial barrier. A peak Saint King dying in the 9 Regions world was a big matter. It could very well threaten Shang Jingxuan's safety. In the Tiannan Empire's main hall, Bo Qinghan bowed and explained the situation. At this time, the emperor bathed in flames appeared in the main hall. He then followed Bo Qinghan to the edge of the spatial barrier. Gong Yang Lai, pass down this king's order. Gather all the peak Saint Kings here. I don't believe that the 9 Regions world can withstand our slaughter. Bo Qinghan, when they arrive, you lead the team. I understand. Bo Qinghan bowed. He had just thought of going directly, but Bo Qing Fearless' death made him timid. If they could kill Bo Qing Fearless, then they could be a threat to him. The king's realm can't be entered. It looks like the 9 Regions world has recovered. The emperor narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the 9 Regions world through the spatial barrier. After a while, Gong Yang Lai brought a few peak Saint Kings over. They were the experts of the Tiannan Empire's imperial city. Set off, the emperor, bathed in the light of the fire, ordered. As Bo Qinghan tore through space and started attacking, a problem appeared. Because he was entering spatial turbulence, he couldn't enter the 9 Regions world. What's going on? Saint Kings could still enter before. Bo Qinghan's expression changed. If Saint Kings couldn't enter, then they couldn't interfere with the 9 Regions world. The 9 Regions world has changed greatly. Since we can't enter, we can only wait and see. The emperor glanced at Bo Qinghan. He was very dissatisfied with Bo Qinghan because he hadn't followed Shang Jingchun to the 9 Regions world. Emperor, it's my fault. Gong Yang Lai bowed. It's not your fault that you can't enter. My son has the sky drum to protect him. Only the king's realm can threaten his safety, said the man bathed in flames. Emperor, it's my fault. Bo Qinghan hurriedly bowed. The emperor had said that it wasn't his fault that Gong Yanglai couldn't enter, so it was naturally his fault that Bo Qinghan could enter. Don't worry about it, replied the emperor emotionlessly. Knight Sorrow was still chasing Shang Jingchen. He was very angry. If it hadn't been for the golden drum, it wouldn't have been very difficult for him to kill Shang Jingchen. Now that he couldn't attack the drum, it wouldn't be easy for him to kill Shang Jingchen. When he reached the edge of the formation enveloping sky-bearing city, Shang Jingchen directly used the drum to open a path and charged through. Seeing the spatial barrier getting closer and closer, Knight Sorrow was furious. He used his spatial protective barrier and spatial laws to block Shang Jingchuan's path to the spatial barrier. Then he attacked with his spear. Seeing Knight Sorrow blocking his path, Shang Jingchen directly used the golden drum to block Knight Sorrow's attack path. Then he flashed to find an opening in the path Knight Sorrow had blocked. He was certain that he wasn't a match for Knight Sorrow. If he didn't run, only death would await him. Knight Sorrow planned to stop Shang Jingchen first. As long as Shang Jingchen couldn't escape, he would have a chance to save Yi Tian. He didn't want to see Yi Tian being tortured again. While Knight Sorrow and Shang Jingchen were fighting, Zhu Jiuyun, who had dealt with all the people from the Heaven Profound world, rushed over. She knew that she couldn't help, but she was worried. Speak. Chapter 956. With Knight Sorrow blocking his escape route, Shang Jingchen controlled the drum to suppress Knight Sorrow. Then, he crushed a message crystal to ask for help. That was his father's message crystal. He was worried about his own safety. If Kuei Long was killed and Knight Sorrow's clone dared to come, he would definitely die. Standing in front of the spatial barrier, the Overlord's body shook. Then, he waved his right hand in front of him and cut open the space. Then, he tore with both hands and expanded the spatial crack infinitely. He could feel that Shang Jingchen was very close to him, just across from the spatial barrier. Come out. The Overlord roared and stretched out his right hand. A huge energy hand entered the 9-domain world. The energy hand created a huge vortex that wrapped around Shang Jingchen and the golden drum at the same time. Then, Shang Jingchen and the golden drum were pulled out of the 9-domain world. Knight Sorrow waved the spacetime pagoda and smashed it towards Shang Jingchen. He did not dare to destroy the golden drum, but he definitely could not let Shang Jingchen escape. At this time, Knight Sorrow attacked with the power of the 9-domain origin law. With the support of the spacetime pagoda and the 9-domain origin law, the vortex energy was shattered and Shang Jingchen was sent out of the spatial crack. The golden drum was taken away, which made Knight Sorrow very angry. Whether Shang Jingchen killed him or not was secondary. He was angry that he did not save Yi Tian, the ancestor of the Knight clan. Although he was angry, Knight Sorrow kept attacking Shang Jingchen with his spear, forcing Shang Jingchen to retreat. Without the protection of the drum, Shang Jingchen was not on the same level as him. In a short time, Knight Sorrow had severely injured Shang Jingchen. Then, he smashed the spacetime pagoda, causing Shang Jingchen to spit out blood. With a low roar, Knight Sorrow chased after Shang Jingchen and broke his 4 limbs. Then, he carried the energy hand, Zhu Jiuyun, to Knight Sorrow's side. A King Realm expert. My energy and laws cannot suppress him. What's next? Knight Sorrow's expression was very ugly. After the battle ended, my original body was outside the array formation leading the way. However, my doppelganger rushed over, Zhu Jiuyun said. At this moment, she had sent her doppelganger over. How am I supposed to answer to grandpa and parents if I didn't save the Moon Empress? Knight Sorrow was very angry. Let's continue to prepare for the battle. Maybe they will send more people over, Zhu Jiuyun said. At that moment, Knight Sorrow's body paused. The 9 regions' origin energy told him that the enemy's Saint Ruler could not enter. After Knight Sorrow snatched back the light-type origin stone, the 9 regions' world's origin energy was complete. Coupled with the law of nothingness as the core, the laws of nothingness had increased once more. Night Sorrow explained the situation to Zhu Jiuyun. That means the Nine Zones world is safe. The only regret is that we did not manage to save the Moon Queen. Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow and did not know how to persuade him. I will think of a way to save her. Let's go back first, Night Sorrow said. At this moment, the joy of victory in his heart had been diluted. It was mainly because Yi Tian's current situation was too miserable. After Night Sorrow carried Shang Jingchun and Zhu Jiuyun through the array, he flew back to the plaza of Sky-Bearing City. At this moment, the plaza was littered with corpses. Most of them were from the Heaven Profound world. There were also nether beast saints who did not fear death. Night Sorrow slowly walked in front of Yi Linghuan and Yi Wuyo. I'm sorry. I was unable to save the Moon Empress' great ancestor. It's not your fault. It was not easy to win this battle. The enemy was too strong. Yi Linghuan was in a bad mood. When he was young, the Moon Empress had hugged him and accompanied him in cultivation. They had a very deep relationship. However, it doesn't matter. I caught the leader. Raise your head. I don't know your name. If you want to live, I want to save her. Night Sorrow threw Shang Jingchun to the ground. Then hurry up and trade with my father. In a while, the two spatial worlds will shift. It will be very difficult to break through space. It will be very troublesome to communicate through the Wuji world. Shang Jingchun was also very anxious. The Nine Zones world was just a subsidiary world. Its value could not be compared to his own. He was naturally worried about his own safety. Night Sorrow thought for a moment. Then, he brought Yi Linghuan, his parents, and Long Xianqing through the array. They arrived in front of the spatial barrier. He casually sent out a strand of void true qi to seal Shang Jingchun's cultivation. Then, he threw him to Yi Linghuan. Night Sorrow sent out 2 spears to break through the spatial barrier. It was not difficult for Night Sorrow to break through the spatial barrier of the Nine Zones world. However, it was not easy to cut through the spatial barrier of the Profound Heaven world. Without Yi Shang's control, the spatial barrier was not closed by the people from the Heaven Profound world. However, Yi Shang also felt that the distance between the two worlds had increased. If you want this peak holy king to live, then hand over that person. Night Sorrow shouted. Hand over the person? The emperor bathed in flames did not understand what Night Sorrow meant. Above Gong Yang Lai bowed and told the emperor of the Profound Heaven dynasty that he had given Shang Jingchun a prisoner. All right. Hand him over to this emperor first. This emperor will naturally return him to you. The emperor bathed in flames shouted at the spatial turbulence. Shang Tianfeng was extremely angry. He had been the emperor of the Profound Heaven dynasty for tens of thousands of years, and he had never been so passive. No one could bargain with him, but now that his son was in Night Sorrow's hands, he could only negotiate. No, I have to take him first before I can release him. Night Sorrow shouted at the spatial rift. Impossible. This emperor must take him first. Shang Tianfeng's words were filled with killing intent. Dream on. He's wearing a light yellow robe. He must be the core of your Profound Heaven dynasty. Don't negotiate with me. Give me that golden drum right now, and I'll release him. Night Sorrow naturally knew that Shang Jingchun's identity was not simple, so he insisted. This was his bargaining chip. If you want to negotiate like this, then there's no way we can negotiate. Shang Tianfeng could not give him the sky drum. That would put him in a passive position. If you don't release him, then you want him to go back? That's impossible. Night Sorrow did not care who was negotiating with him. As the two of them were in a stalemate, the spatial rift between the two worlds became smaller and smaller until it closed. That's all there is to his value. Grandfather will take him down. Torture him however you can. Night Sorrow was helpless when he failed to exchange for the person. He could not compromise because if he handed him over first, it might be all for naught. Don't torture me. My soul clone will torture him. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Shang Jingchun, whose limbs were all broken, was somewhat anxious. There's no harm in telling you. I have a way to determine that person's aura. If his condition is not good, I will know. It's not that I don't want to give you a chance. I need to feel that person's well. If his life aura continues to wither, then don't live. I don't believe I can't save him, Night Sorrow said coldly. Shang Jingchun agreed. He had to agree. This situation made Yi Linghuan feel more at ease. Although he couldn't save the person, he still had a bargaining chip in his hand. Night Sorrow brought a few people back to Sky-bearing City. Then, he removed the Great Formation and began to wrap up the war. True Ocean Sage and Black Dragon Sage's deaths made Night Sorrow's heart ache, but this was war. We will set up a steal. Everything will be arranged, Tai Shu Yen said to Night Sorrow. She knew that the matter of the Moon Empress still had some impact on Night Sorrow. Speak. Fourth Watch. Chapter 957. Take care of the aftermath. The people who died in battle are all heroes of the 9 regions world. We have to treat them well, said Night Sorrow. We will. Don't worry. Tai Shu Yen and the others nodded. Night Sorrow, don't worry. You can sense the Moon Empress's aura. Once her aura weakens, kill her. I don't believe she won't treat the Moon Empress well, said Yi Linghuan as he looked at Shang Jingchun. Night Sorrow nodded. In truth, this made him feel more at ease. The other side wouldn't dare to torture Shang Jingchun anymore. After all, Shang Jingchun was in his hands. Commander, should we call back Sky-bearing City's people now? Asked Tai Shu Yen. Although they don't dare come, we'll wait for a while longer just to be safe, said Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow guessed that the other side wouldn't send anyone else, but he couldn't take the risk. Then Night Sorrow and Yi Qianhua began to withdraw the formation. There was no need for it. The Heaven Profound World Saint Kings couldn't enter, so they wouldn't casually send people into the 9 regions world. That was just sending them to their deaths. Just at this moment, the sky shattered once more, and a saint appeared above Sky-bearing City. You really dare come to court death? Night Sorrow raised his spear, about to kill. Don't. My imperial father tore open space and sent my guard here. She brought a mother-son communication crystal. You can confirm the safety of your Yi clan member at any time. Don't attack me. Seeing that Night Sorrow was about to kill, Shang Jingchun hastily called out. You're smart. If you can guarantee the safety of my Yi clan, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll let you live a better life. Hand over the crystal and scram, said Night Sorrow coldly. I'm staying behind to take care of my prince, said the Peak Saint. Just be an ordinary person. Night Sorrow's left hand spun, grabbing this saint to his side. He sent out a ray of energy with his left hand, sealing her dantian. Night Sorrow put away the spiritual avatar that had been preparing for battle after killing Kuei Long and collecting the materials. He merged it with his main body. In the profound heaven world, there were many people standing in front of the spatial barrier. Shang Jingchun was also there, but he was just a clone that could only transmit messages. Father, things can be stabilized for now, Shang Jingchun said. It's fine as long as they're stable. We'll think of a way to make a deal. Let's go back. Shang Tianfeng's figure flashed, and he left. He was very angry because the Tiannan Empire had suffered a double loss in this massacre. He didn't mind losing some men, but he was very angry that his son had been captured. Inside the palace, Shang Tianfeng sat on the main seat. Gong Yanglai, you're in charge of looking after that prisoner. Don't let anything happen to him. This concerns the third prince's safety. This subordinate will deal with it properly. Gong Yanglai bowed. Bo Qinghan, I put you and the third prince in charge of handling this matter, but you actually cowered and let the third prince fall. Are you more honorable than my son? Shang Tianfeng looked at Bo Qinghan. I wouldn't dare. I was wrong. Bo Qinghan knelt on the ground. He understood Shang Tianfeng's methods. Commit suicide as an apology, and I won't pursue the matter with your family. Also, prepare for war. I don't believe we can't deal with the 9 regions world. Shang Tianfeng left the palace. He had basically announced Bo Qinghan's fate, and no one in the Tiannan Empire dared to go against him. Go back and tell them that Bo Qinghan will commit suicide in 3 days. Bo Qinghan sighed and left the palace. However, there were imperial guards in the palace, and they wouldn't give him a chance to escape. Within the 9 regions world sky-bearing city, Night Sorrow and Yi Qianhua removed the formation. Night Sorrow, can you let me interrogate that person in a bit? I want to know who the current ruler of the Tiannan Empire is. Yi Qianhua looked at Night Sorrow after removing the formation. The only genuine copy of I was V, while the others were Q, pirated copy K, sure. He should be a direct descendant of the Tiannan Empire, but we can't kill him for now because the Moon Empress is still in their hands, said Night Sorrow. I won't kill him. He's just a prince, so there's not much meaning to it. Yi Qianhua nodded. Night Sorrow put away the 1,000 derivation illusory formation around sky-bearing city. He Shang and the others also removed the heavenly cycle formation. A few days later, sky-bearing city's people returned under the arrangements of the commander's manor. They had been arranged to be in a nearby city, so they were able to teleport back. Night Sorrow brought Yi Qianhua to the commander's manor. After asking around, he learned that Yi Linghuan had brought Shang Jingchun to Night Moon City to be imprisoned. Right now, the commander's manor's people should focus on recovering from the battle. Focus on the resources in the Nether Realm, said Night Sorrow. Yes. Tai Shu Yan, Yun Tianlong, Jun Xuanji, and the others all bowed. The other thing is to ensure the safety of the families and descendants of the people who died in battle. If they don't have any morals, directly wipe them out, ordered Night Sorrow. After confirming that he hadn't missed anything, Night Sorrow returned to Sky City. He placed the Spacetime Pagoda next to the lake and brought Yi Qianhua to Night Moon City. In Night Moon City, Night Sorrow saw that the higher-ups of Night Moon City were all present. Seeing Night Sorrow, everyone nodded. Although Night Sorrow's seniority was low, his strength and prestige were there for all to see. Where are the hostages? Asked Night Sorrow. Their cultivation bases have been sealed, and one of them is heavily injured. They're in a pavilion in the back, said Yi Linghuan. This person is related to the Moon Empress's safety. I'll take care of him in the future, said Night Sorrow. At that moment, the emperors of Night Moon City all stood up and cupped their hands to Night Sorrow. They were all very worried about Yi Tian's safety because he was their father. I'll do my best. In addition, the spatial laws of Night Moon City will be strengthened. Whether or not the unrivaled sovereigns can enter the Saint Realm will depend on their own luck, said Night Sorrow. This was the care given to the Night Moon dynasty, who had contributed greatly to the 9-domain world, after the 9-domain world was completed. Yi Shenxian and the others nodded. They didn't have any way to save Yi Tian right now, so they could only hope that Night Sorrow would come. Everyone, don't worry. The Moon Empress is imprisoned, but she won't be tortured anymore. This crystal ball can see the Moon Empress's situation at any time. If there's a problem, come and find me. Night Sorrow comforted the emperors and handed the crystal ball to Yi Shenhua. The Moon Empress won't be suffering now. You don't have to be too anxious. Be careful, said Yi Shenxian as he looked at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow nodded. Under the guidance of the emperors, Night Sorrow saw Shang Jingchun and his guard and maid in a pavilion. Take him and follow me, said Night Sorrow to Shang Jingchun's maid. The maid also understood the situation. She carried Shang Jingchun and followed behind Night Sorrow. After arriving at Sky City, Night Sorrow arranged for them to stay in a pavilion. He and Yi Qianhua sat across from Shang Jingchun and the maid. I have some questions for you right now. I hope you'll tell me the truth. After this, as long as my people are doing well, I won't disturb you. I'll let you live peacefully until the replacement, said Night Sorrow. Okay. Shang Jingchun didn't want to provoke Night Sorrow right now because the Tiannan dynasty was already arranging for the replacement. He didn't want to provoke Night Sorrow and make him suffer. Speak. Chapter 958. The next question was asked by Yi Tianhua. When he found out that the king of Tiannan Empire was Shang Tianfeng, Yi Tianhua clenched his fists and his body trembled. After calming himself down, Yi Tianhua asked a few more questions before leaving the pavilion. Night Sorrow set up 1,000 derivation illusionary array outside the pavilion and communicated with Yi Tianhua while setting up the array. Shang Tianfeng was the one who forced my parents to their deaths. It's good that he's still alive. I'm afraid that he's dead. Yi Tianhua said. He's at least a king realm cultivator. Otherwise, he would have reached the end of his lifespan. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said. Yes, Tiannan Empire's Shang clan is a clan with a long history. Their innate bloodline is berserk and can instantly increase their fighting strength by 30%. How strong is the king realm? Back then, they were afraid of our Yi clan, which was why they schemed. Yi Tianhua was very disdainful of the Shang clan. After setting up the array, Night Sorrow brought Yi Tianhua to his residence and brewed a pot of tea. Next, they will take action. After all, that's a prince. Yi Tianhua looked at Night Sorrow and said. After Night Sorrow and Yi Tianhua communicated for a while, they estimated that the other party would think of a way to come to the 9 regions world from the Wuji world. After listening to Yi Tianhua's explanation, Night Sorrow also knew some things. The Great 1,000 Worlds were all in operation, but there was still a way to connect them. That was the Interrealm Teleportation Array. It required a top-grade teleportation crystal. The Wuji world and the Heaven Mystic world had such teleportation arrays. The Wuji world was a subsidiary world of the Heaven Mystic world, but its form was very detached. The Wuji world's realm lord's palace had established a power in the Heaven Mystic world. They set up a teleportation array and the life forms of the Wuji world could enter the Heaven Mystic world freely to explore and train. However, if the people of the Heaven Mystic world wanted to teleport to the Wuji world, they would have to go through an inspection. If they couldn't pass the inspection, they wouldn't be allowed to enter. If they forcefully entered, they would be killed. Furthermore, experts wouldn't take this risk. No one knew what cultivation level the Limitless World's World Lord was at. If he was at the King Realm, then if they fought in his world, the other King Realm experts would also be killed. Night Sorrow, actually, in the Sky Profound world, which is 1,000 times bigger than the 9 domain worlds, the King Realm is extremely rare. The King Realm is a first-rate force. Yi Tianhua said to Night Sorrow. We don't know how many King Realm experts there are in the Tiannan dynasty, but that Shang Tianfeng is definitely one, Night Sorrow said. Back then, I was still young, but I knew that my father was at the King Realm, while my grandfather and mother were at the half-step King Realm. At that time, Shang Tianfeng was only a high-level Saint King, so he felt threatened and did something despicable. Yi Tianhua's face was filled with memories. There was both happiness and pain in his memories. We don't know what kind of methods they will use to make a deal with us, but I will be cautious. If there is even the slightest risk, we won't make a deal. In any case, their King Realm and Saint King Realm experts can't enter the 9 domain worlds, Night Sorrow said. They will probably communicate with the Limitless World's World Lord Palace and then make a deal, Yi Tianhua said his idea. Night Sorrow, you can try to see if your nihility law can isolate the Limitless World source from probing. If it can, then you can enter the Limitless World in advance, or even enter the Heaven Mystic world to set up an ambush. If there is a chance, save them. If there is no chance, talk about the deal, Yi Tianhua said. I need to make 2 preparations, Night Sorrow said. Yes, that Shang Tianfeng's character is cunning and changeable. After suffering a loss this time, he will not let it go. He will definitely take revenge on the 9 domain worlds. As for what methods he will use, it is hard to say. If he can save Yi Tian and hold a hostage, that will be the safest, Yi Tianhua said. Then I will think about it carefully, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a while. Yi Tianhua then said goodbye to Night Sorrow and went to the Space-Time Treasure Pagoda to cultivate. Night Sorrow thought. After listening to Yi Qianhua's analysis, he knew that the Heaven Mystic World's Tian-Nan dynasty would not give up after this massacre. You plan to go to the profound heaven world? If you want to go, then go. You have an avatar in the heaven's sealing Great Hall, which means that you are undying and indestructible. The other 9 regions have just begun to develop, and everything is not mature yet. They cannot provide you with any help in your growth. The 9 regions' origin body communicated with Yishan. As they continued to communicate, Night Sorrow learned that the 9 domain worlds were currently unable to produce a king realm cultivator. That was because the spatial world had only been formed for a short period of time. Its laws had just been completed, and the will of heaven and earth was not strong enough. Cultivators were unable to comprehend the will of heaven and earth. This was also the reason why Yi Qianhua had been unable to reach the king realm even after cultivating for several lifetimes. Actually, your growth is the growth of the 9 domain worlds. The 9 domain origin body communicated with Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that he had to leave the 9 domain worlds. He had to deal with Yi Tian's matter, as well as his own growth. This was related to the future of the 9 domain worlds. While Night Sorrow was thinking, a group of people came to his residence. His parents, Wu Lingfei, Xuexi, and his 3 wives had all come. Night Sorrow, don't feel pressured. The Moon Empress is doing well. They've already healed her and changed her treatment, said Yi Wuyo. I know. No matter how good her life is, she's still a prisoner. No matter what, we still have to rescue her. It's just that we don't need to be in such a rush, said Night Sorrow. You have to attend the funerals of the True Sea Sage and the Black Dragon Sage. You can't delay the others just because Night Moon is busy, said Yu Qing to Night Sorrow. Mother, I understand. Night Sorrow nodded. Also, we have to hold a celebration. The 9 domain worlds withstood the calamity of slaughter. That was a problem that had never been solved before. Now that it has been resolved, the people of the Commander's Manor are all suggesting that we hold a celebration, said Yi Linghuan. We should. Night Sorrow nodded. He felt that the deaths of the True Sea Sage and the Black Dragon Sage were regretful, but he couldn't deny the results of this battle. At this moment, the 9 domain origin Qi sent a message to Night Sorrow. The True Sea Sage and the Black Dragon Sage's souls had not been destroyed. They would reincarnate. However, because their souls had been heavily injured, their consciousnesses had already disappeared. As for whether or not they could awaken, that would depend on fate. Last time, during the Great Massacre calamity, the origin of the 9 domains had been shattered and could not protect anyone's soul. Therefore, all the Saint Kings and Saints had perished. However, this time was different. Yi Shang had snatched the Light Origin Stone and the 9 domains world's laws were complete. He could take care of the living beings of the 9 domains world to a certain extent. Unless their souls had been destroyed, there was no possibility of reincarnation. This made Night Sorrow very happy. He exerted force with his hand and crushed the table beside him. Original page, what is it? Seeing Night Sorrow lose his composure, Yi Linghuan and the others stood up. They didn't understand what had happened because Night Sorrow had been very calm these past few years. Speak. Chapter 959. Sorry, I got too excited. I just received news from the 9 realms essences that True Ocean Saint and Black Dragon Saint haven't completely perished. They still have a chance to reincarnate, but they've lost their wills and consciousness, said Night Sorrow. That's great. Yi Linghuan said happily. The deaths of True Sea Saint and Black Dragon Saint could be said to be the pain and heartache of the 9 domain world. Knowing that the 2 of them were still alive in this world, everyone felt a little more at ease. This also shows that in future battles, soul defense and soul attacks will be very important. If there are no secret techniques, I'll think of something, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. Everyone nodded. While they were chatting, the higher-ups of the commander's residence also came to Night Sorrow's residence. Fortunately, Night Sorrow's residence was big enough to accommodate some people. Why is everyone here? Night Sorrow greeted them with a smile. If we didn't come, you wouldn't have gone to the commander's residence, Tai Shu Yen said with a smile. It's not a big deal now. You can deal with it as you see fit, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Commander, I plan to step down. After entering the Saint Realm, there won't be any bottlenecks for a period of time. I have to seize the time to cultivate, Tai Shu Yen said. That's true. Then let's make some arrangements. Elder June will be promoted to Vice Commander. What about you, Zhu Jiuyun? Night Sorrow looked at Zhu Jiuyun. I want to cultivate. I need to reach the peak of the Saint King realm. The Nether Realm's cloud-slashing king can do some things. You can make the arrangements, Zhu Jiuyun said. Yi Shang thought for a moment, then looked at Yun Tianlong and Jun Xuanji and made the arrangements. That's fine. Vice Commander Yun and Vice Commander Jun notified Zhu Yunqing to become an elder in the commander's residence. Afterward, Xiaolan Jun, who was the supreme elder of the commander's residence, asked about the arrangements for the Saint crystals obtained from this war. High-level venerables and venerables with potential will be arranged first. Venerables who have fought bitterly for the 9 regions world will have priority, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone nodded. Night Sorrow's arrangements were very reasonable. My only regret is the death of my 2 old friends and the imprisonment of the Moon Empress, Xiaolan Jun said. Night Sorrow shook his head and told him about True Ocean Saint and Black Dragon Saint's souls not being destroyed, and that Night Sky was doing well. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone felt more at ease. Lu Qin then said that the resources she obtained this time were only some healing pills and some resources that could instantly replenish energy. There were almost no resources that could assist in cultivation. These resources will be used as strategic reserves. Also, I've obtained some resources as well. As for those weapons, I'll be distributing them to my brothers in the God-slaying squad. I won't be handing them over, Night Sorrow said. No one disagreed. It could be said that Night Sorrow had dominated the war. After telling Night Sorrow that True Ocean Saint and Black Dragon Saint's funerals would be in 3 days, and that the 3 realms celebration would be in 7 days, the commander's residence's people all left. That was because Night Sorrow also needed to rest and reunite with his family. Everyone knew that Night Sorrow had been under a lot of pressure during this time. After the commander's residence's people left, the God-slaying squad's people returned from the central prefecture. Yi Nianxiao also returned to the city in the sky. Brother, you're very powerful. You killed several peak holy kings. Right now, the immortal holy king Night Sorrow's name is like thunder in the 9 regions world, said Yi Nianxiao to Night Sorrow. Huh, how have you been recently? Has your cultivation been smooth? Asked Night Sorrow with a smile. Of course it's been smooth. My cultivation has been smooth, said Yi Nianxiao. She was already a mid-stage venerable and was the most outstanding child of the Sacred Hall's batch. After the family enjoyed dinner, they chatted on the viewing platform of the residence. When Yi Wuyo asked about the exchange of hostages, Night Sorrow thought about it and told him about the situation and his plans. Son, the 9 regions world is our territory. It's already so difficult for us to win a war, yet you still want to go to other people's territory. Yu Qing was a little unwilling, mainly because it was too dangerous. Mother, if I don't go out, I'll be stuck at a bottleneck for the rest of my life. I won't be able to achieve anything higher. I don't want that. Also, the matter of the Moon Empress must be prepared for a rainy day, said Night Sorrow. You're a Saint King and have a lifespan of 10,000 years. There's nothing to worry about, said Yu Qing. Mother, I have a doppelganger similar to my true body in the heaven-sealing Grand Hall. As long as the 9 regions world is not destroyed, my doppelganger will not be destroyed. If something happens to me, that doppelganger will be my true body, said Yi Shang. So that's how it is. Alright, Mother won't stop you, but your wife can't come with you, said Yu Qing. Yu Qing's consideration was based on the fact that the whole family needed someone to stay together. I understand, Night Sorrow nodded. Over the next few days, after attending the funerals of Zhen Hai Sheng and Black Dragon Saint, Night Sorrow accompanied his family and didn't care about anything else. In the past, because he had been worried about the massacre, he had been working hard on his cultivation, so Night Sorrow didn't spend time with his family. In addition, Night Sorrow told his parents that he wanted to resign from his position as commander and that he would leave the 9 regions world. He wouldn't have time to manage things, so he might as well let someone else do it. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing both supported Night Sorrow's idea. In their hearts, they didn't need their child to have great achievements, as long as he was happy. In addition, Night Sorrow had done everything he could. Night Sorrow's 3 wives also supported him, and Xueshi didn't have any objections. Wu Lingfei, who stayed in the city in the sky, also didn't express any opinions. Night Sorrow relaxed for a few days. Taishiyan came to invite Night Sorrow to the commander's residence. Today was the day of the celebration. Night Sorrow brought his family and the members of the god-slaying squad to the commander's residence. At this time, the commander's residence had been rebuilt, and it was even more majestic and domineering. The square in front of the commander's residence had also been expanded, on the basis of the original Tai Ching City Square. What made Yi Shang flabbergasted was that there was a 9-zhang tall statue erected at the front of the plaza. It was him with the reincarnation spear on his back. His white battle robe fluttered in the wind as if it was about to come to life. How is it? This is the work of the Eastern Profound Region sculptor, Lei Hua, said Xia Lanjun with a smile. This isn't appropriate. Victory in the war is the result of everyone's efforts, not mine alone, said Night Sorrow. He had never thought that a statue of himself would appear. There's nothing inappropriate about it. You killed 3 Saint Kings and a peak Saint King ferocious beast. You were the one who dominated the battle. Without your help, the 9 regions world would be in a mess today. Long Xianqing said. Above, Commander, go on the stage and say a few words, said Jun Xuanji. Night Sorrow thought for a moment, then walked to the platform in front of the square and looked at the crowd. After seeing Night Sorrow appear, the originally joyous crowd quieted down. This time, our 9 regions world won the war. It wasn't easy, and we paid the price of blood and lives. Here, I thank the heroes who fought for our 9 regions world. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he bowed twice to the sky. Withstanding the great calamity of slaughter is a new beginning for our 9 regions world. Everything will be better, and I will continue to work hard. However, from today onwards, I will no longer be the commander. I will also start a new chapter in my life, said Night Sorrow. At this moment, everyone looked at Night Sorrow in a daze. No one had thought that Night Sorrow would say that last sentence. No one could accept it because Night Sorrow was their backbone. Speak. Chapter 960. That won't do. Commander, what are you doing? Long Xiansheng and the others were already on the platform. I'm really not suitable to be a commander anymore. There are still many things I need to do. The Tiannan dynasty of the Tianxian world suffered a loss this time and will not let it go. In addition, I also need to break the shackles of the 9 regions world, the shackles that prevent us from entering the Tianxian realm, Yi Shang said. But Commander, other than you, it'll be very difficult for others to manage the 3 spatial worlds. It'll be very difficult to convince the masses. Long Xianqing looked at the people present, mainly Zhu Jiuyun and Jun Xuanji. You should still be the commander. The vice commander and elders of the commander's residence can help you share the burden, said Jun Xuanji. It's not suitable to not do anything and still occupy the position, said Night Sorrow as he shook his head. At this time, the crowd also became restless. Everyone knew that the commander was the immortal Holy King, Night Sorrow. Under his leadership, the 9-domain world had developed at an unprecedented rate. Now that Night Sorrow wanted to retreat, it had a huge impact on everyone. Everyone, don't worry. The commander's residence will have a perfect solution for this matter, said Long Xiansheng. Yes, everyone, don't worry. No matter when, no matter where, as long as the 9-domain world needs me, I, Night Sorrow, will definitely stand up. Even if I die in battle, I won't take half a step back, promised Night Sorrow. Everyone who responded to Night Sorrow bowed in greeting. At this time, Night Sorrow once again felt the power of virtue enter his body. Outside his spirit sea, the golden halo behind his head became even more conspicuous. After Night Sorrow returned the bow, he followed the people from the commander's residence back into the commander's residence. "Commander, none of us can accept your sudden decision," said Jun Xuanji. "But I'm really not suitable. I plan to go to the limitless realm and then enter the profound heaven world. They're trying to kill us. This is an insult to us. I can't tolerate this," Yi Shang said. "But this has nothing to do with you being the commander. We only need the vice commander and elders. If there's anything, we can discuss it. Don't talk about stepping down. That will really disappoint the cultivators and commoners of the three realms," said Yun Tianlong. "We all know that it's been hard on you, but the commander's residence and the three realms need a pillar of support. If someone else were to be the commander, it would be hard to convince the masses. It would be detrimental to the stability of the three realms," said Xian Wenxiu. He trusted Yi Shang, so he was worried that a change in commander would affect the profound mysteries realm. Hearing everyone's words, Yi Shang could only nod. He couldn't refuse. Then, a grand banquet was held, and the real celebration began. After drinking with everyone, Yi Shang brought his wife back to the city in the sky. "No need to worry. I'm just going to take a look. I'll come back once I understand the situation," said Night Sorrow. He wouldn't bring the girls even if Yu Qing agreed. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yang Lei thought about it and didn't say anything. She knew that this matter couldn't be discussed. It wasn't just Yu Qing's idea. Night Sorrow didn't agree either. Night Sorrow didn't go to the Wuji world directly. He hadn't cultivated the myriad Dao treasured tome to the peak yet. Inside the spacetime treasure pagoda, Night Sorrow meditated inside the dragon cauldron to recover. At the same time, he checked the situation outside. At this moment, in the Wuji world's Wuji city, a phantom appeared in the sky-bearing palace. "Greetings, Realm Lord," said the two elders in the sky-bearing palace as they bowed. "The two of you, go to the spatial barrier area that connects to the 9-domain world and check it out. There's an energy fluctuation there," said the phantom before disappearing. Night Sorrow meditated peacefully inside the dragon cauldron. He knew that this was the first risk. The other risk was when he went through the transfer array from the Wuji world to the Heaven Profound world. If nothing happened, then he could enter the Heaven Profound world safely. And the beginning of the second book. Chapter 961. Night Sorrow's soul power was tyrannical. He had been scanning the outside of the dragon cauldron. He had patience now, and he was willing to exchange patience for safety. 6 hours later, a group of people appeared. They were patrolling near the spatial barrier. Night Sorrow realized that the leader was a 7-star Saint King. Night Sorrow knew that this was not the Realm Lord of the Wuji world. The Realm Lord of the Wuji world would not be in the middle of a stage. He would definitely be at the peak of a stage. This group of people left after checking one round. Night Sorrow hid very well, so it was impossible for him to be discovered. Unless the Realm Lord came and used the world's origin power to suppress and search bit by bit, it would be impossible to discover Night Sorrow. This group of people left. Night Sorrow emerged from the ground. He kept the space-splitting spear back into his body and flew forward. Night Sorrow wanted to find a city to understand the situation first. Otherwise, it would be easy to recognize that he was not a native of the Wuji world. As for being recognized, Night Sorrow was not worried. He had reached the realm of returning to one's original state. Those below the high-level Saint King would not be able to detect his cultivation. After half a day, Night Sorrow entered a city. There were guards guarding the city. However, seeing that Night Sorrow was dressed in a tolerant white robe and did not have any cultivation, they did not even ask. After entering the city, Night Sorrow found a tea house. After asking for a pot of tea, he listened to the conversations of others. He realized that this Wuji world was very similar to the Nine Regions world. They were all mainly humans. After listening for a while, Knight Sorrow left the tea house and went to the main street of this small city. He then bought a small map. This was a small city. Naturally, it was impossible for there to be anything too high level. Knight Sorrow looked at the map and rushed towards the nearest big city. This time, Knight Sorrow didn't go through the city gate. It was illogical for a person without any cultivation to run around outside the city. The quality of the city guards in a big city was also different from that of a small one. The people of the small city were simple and honest. It was normal for the guards of the big city to look for trouble. Knight Sorrow did not want to cause any trouble. He found a hole in the city wall's defense and used the space law to cut into the big city. This was a cultivator's city. It was comparable to the royal cities of the various dynasties in the Nine Regions world's Grand Clarity domain. Knight Sorrow leisurely strolled on the streets. At this moment, he revealed his cultivation level to be at the 5th step, which was suitable for the cultivators here. In a shop, Knight Sorrow bought an entire map of the everlasting world. Then, he found a large tea house and asked for a pot of tea. He slowly drank while listening to the conversations of others. Tea houses and restaurants were the easiest places to gather information. There were all sorts of people here. Knight Sorrow's soul power enveloped this place. Everyone's conversation was heard by him. While listening to Knight Sorrow, he looked at the map and compared it with the conversations of the customers. The main city of the everlasting world was the everlasting city. The city that intersected with the heaven profound world was the true extreme city. These were the two largest cities in the everlasting world. This flying cloud city was the closest city to the Nine Regions world. At this moment, in the heaven profound world, in the everlasting world's two extreme city, there was a person sitting in the city lord's mansion. This person's body was filled with fire energy. He was the Emperor Lord of the Sky South Empire. I am Shang Tianfeng of the Sky South Empire. I would like to discuss some matters with the World Lord of your everlasting world. Please inform him, said Shang Tianfeng to an elder sitting in the main seat. This elder was a 5-star holy king, the city lord of two extreme city. A 5-star holy king's cultivation wasn't much in the heaven profound world, but no one dared to casually provoke two extreme city. Even the major powers of the heaven profound world wouldn't. The city lord of two extreme city could be easily killed, but the revenge of the everlasting world's world lord was something no one was willing to accept. The everlasting world's world lord was undying within the everlasting world. His true body was in the everlasting world. If his clone came out to take revenge, no power would be able to accept it. So it's Emperor Shang. What is it? Tell me roughly so I can give the World Lord an explanation. Otherwise, the World Lord would have come here for nothing. The elder sitting in the main seat was neither haughty nor humble. He was nothing in front of Shang Tianfeng. Shang Tianfeng could crush him at any time, but he had a backer behind him. It's like this. My Sky South Empire's people are in the Nine Regions world, and they also have hostages in the hands of my Sky South Empire. Thus, both sides wish to exchange hostages. Shang Tianfeng directly stated his intentions. The exchange of hostages will be carried out in our everlasting world? Asked the elder. He was a family member of the everlasting world's world lord, Yinwu Absolute. He had a very high position in the everlasting world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to become the city lord of two extreme city. The crux of the problem is that our experts cannot enter the everlasting world. Once we enter the everlasting world, there will be conflict. Furthermore, if the other side isn't confident, they won't trade with us. Thus, I want to discuss with your everlasting world. If you can assist my Sky South Empire in exchanging hostages, then my Sky South Empire is willing to give you resources to express our gratitude. If you can open up a path for us to enter the Nine Regions world, then your everlasting world can obtain 5 cities of my Sky South Empire, said Shang Tianfeng. Then Emperor Shang, please wait a moment. I need to return and meet with the World Lord. Men, bring Emperor Shang to the VIP building to rest. Yinwu Absolute waved his hand and called for someone to bring Shang Tianfeng to rest. Shang Tianfeng hadn't left the Sky South Empire for many years. If there was anything, he would directly give orders. However, this time, it was related to his son's life. He had no choice but to personally come. After Yinwu Absolute spoke to his assistant, he took a transportation formation back to the everlasting world. Following another transportation formation, he arrived at the everlasting city. In a small courtyard not far from the sky-bearing palace in Everlasting City, a middle-aged man and a woman were playing chess. Absolute Marshal, come take a look. Is there any chance of winning this game? The middle-aged man waved his hand at Yinwu Absolute. And #new quickest start be the middle-aged man was wearing a long robe. Although he had two small tufts of mustache, he appeared very amiable. His aura was very calm. He also looked very handsome. His black hair was simply tied behind his head. If people saw this person on the streets, they would only give him a few more glances. They would definitely not think of anything else. However, the truth was that he was the ruler of the everlasting world, the everlasting world's world lord, Yen Tianpa. World lord, please don't make fun of me. This time, I have come for an important matter. Yinwu Absolute bowed and said. Even if it's an important matter, we must finish this game of chess. Even if we lose, we must lose openly. We cannot give up halfway. Yen Tianpa waved his hand at Yinwu Absolute to have him sit down and continued playing chess. Tianpa, you handle the matter first. The woman sitting in front of Yen Tianpa said. The woman had a graceful figure but she was wearing a veil. That's fine too. What matter is worthy of you personally coming back? Yen Tianpa asked Yinwu Absolute as he brewed tea. The Sky Profound World and the Nine Domain World want to make a hostage trade. They want us to cooperate. Yinwu Absolute explained the matter in detail. Just at this moment, the woman sitting in front of Yen Tianpa trembled and stood up. Calm down first. Yen Tianpa nodded slightly at the woman and smiled. Interesting. Seems like the Sky South Empire is going to harvest the Nine Domain World once every 10,000 years. However, the result is that they suffered a great loss. Speak. Chapter 962. That should be the case. He's also an important person from the South Sky Empire. Otherwise, Shang Tianfeng wouldn't have personally come and paid such a huge price, said Yen Wujue. Interesting. Looks like the Nine Domain World is no longer the same Nine Domain World as before. It's not easy to capture an important person from the South Sky Empire, muttered Tan Tianpa. Then, how should I reply? Asked Yen Wujue. Go back and tell Shang Tianfeng that we can protect the hostages. However, it's impossible to open up a path. If the Nine Domain World can attack, why would we need them? As for the price, you can discuss it. It's fine to be ruthless. The South Sky Empire is extremely rich, said Yen Tianpa without any hesitation. Okay. Let them bring the hostages in, nodded Yen Wujue. Tell them that if a Saint King dares to enter the Wuji world, kill him, said Yen Tianpa. His words caused the space to tremble. But how do we contact the Nine Domain World? Asked Yen Wujue. Easy. They've already arrived at the Wuji world. Moreover, he's a pretty good expert. Go to the Wuji City Lord's mansion and tell the various City Lord's manors to announce that I want to meet him. I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to exchange the hostages, said Yen Tianpa. Most v. New chapters versus Yen Wujue nodded and left the courtyard. The Nine Domain World has risen. I can feel that the laws of the Nine Domain World have been perfected. It's repelling and suppressing all the surrounding worlds. Moreover, there's a world lord, said Yen Tianpa to the woman opposite him. The Nine Domain World has risen. The Nine Domain World can actually withstand the great massacre calamity. Those who died can rest in peace. The veil on the woman's face was soaked with tears. I hope you don't hate me, said Yan Tianpa softly. I understand, nodded the woman. Night Sorrow couldn't go to the Wuji city because that was the core of the Wuji world. The Wuji world's world lord was there. If he got too close, he would be easily discovered. After keeping the map, Night Sorrow teleported to the Two Extreme City. He planned to find a chance to trick the guards of the teleportation array into the profound sky world. While strolling around the city, Night Sorrow saw the announcement from the city lord's mansion. The realm lord wanted to meet the people of the 9 regions world to discuss the exchange of hostages. He had no ill intentions. Upon seeing this notice, Night Sorrow was a little stunned. However, he soon understood that someone had investigated him when he tore open space and entered the Wuji world. This meant that the Wuji world's realm master already knew that someone had come from the 9 regions world. After thinking about it for a while, Night Sorrow felt that he could go. The words of a world sector lord carried enormous weight. However, Night Sorrow wasn't completely unprepared. Once again, he returned to the spatial barrier. His main body entered the spacetime pagoda and hid within the spatial barrier. Next, his soul avatar arrived at Everlasting City and headed straight for the City Lord's mansion. When the City Lord's mansion's men saw Night Sorrow, they immediately went into a state of alert. Night Sorrow of the 9 regions world has seen the notice and has come to pay a visit to the limitless world lord. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards the black-robed old man who walked out of the City Lord's mansion. Please enter the City Lord's mansion and wait for a moment. The old man looked at Night Sorrow and said, Be more courteous. Bring him to me. A voice rang out in the air. Yes, Realm Lord. The black-robed old man bowed towards the air and gestured for Night Sorrow to enter. He was very shocked because Night Sorrow was a peak stage Saint King. Under the lead of the black-robed old man, Night Sorrow entered the courtyard where Yan Tianpa and the white-robed woman were playing chess. I am Yan Tianpa. Yan Tianpa introduced himself to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow of the 9 regions world greets the Flame World Lord. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards Yan Tianpa. Your soul clone is at the peak of the Saint King realm. Your bone age is a little special. Your true bone age is less than 100 years. Even if you include some illusions, your bone age is less than 1,000 years. You are a rare genius. Yan Tianpa looked at Night Sorrow and explained Night Sorrow's situation. The fact that I didn't come is a little disrespectful to the Flame World Lord. However, I have no choice. I have some concerns. Night Sorrow nodded. This Yan Tianpa spoke casually and wasn't overbearing. I didn't guess wrongly. You are the Realm Lord of the 9 regions world. Young man, you are very capable. Have a seat. If I said I have no ill intentions, then I have no ill intentions. Yan Tianpa gestured for Yi Shiwen to enter. Night Sorrow nodded and sat down. Since the other party had no ill intentions, they had to talk. The 9 regions world won the great massacre calamity that occurs once every 10,000 years, right? Yan Tianpa poured a cup of water for Night Sorrow and asked. They won. They killed all of them and captured the Prince of the Sky South Empire. However, they want to exchange the captured clansmen of our Night clan. They are clansmen who entered the Sky Profound world in the past. Night Sorrow said. Could it be that 100 years ago, your 9 regions world used the Wuji world to enter the Sky Profound world? Yan Tianpa thought for a while and said. It should be. I'm not very clear about the details. I have never seen this ancestor before. Night Sorrow said. You haven't seen him before. It seems that I didn't see wrongly. Your true age is very young. Let's put it this way. I also don't like the Sky South Empire. They used resources to ask me for help and wanted to exchange hostages in the Wuji world. They want me to guarantee the safety of the exchange. Are you willing to exchange? After all, the Prince of the Sky South Empire is more valuable. Yan Tianpa looked at Night Sorrow and asked. I am willing. In my eyes, the Prince of the Sky South Empire is not as important as a strand of hair from my Night clan. However, if it's the main resources of the Flame world, I might not have them. Night Sorrow expressed his attitude. I like this attitude of yours. I don't want your resources, I just want theirs. In that case, you can go and prepare. It doesn't matter if this sovereign comes. This sovereign won't have any thoughts about you. If I did, I would have attacked your 9 regions world long ago. Yen Tianpa laughed. Many thanks, Flame World Master. Here are 2 jugs of wine to express my gratitude. Night Sorrow took out 2 jugs of wine and placed them on the table. He then turned and left. Seeing Night Sorrow leave, the veiled woman stood up. Is this the youth of the 9 regions world? His soul clone is at the peak of the Saint King realm. His body is filled with blood chi and his laws rippled. When I tried to investigate, I was directly dissolved. He's very strong. Yen Tianpa said. Tianpa, don't stop me from going back. I must go back. The woman looked at Yen Tianpa and said. I won't stop you anymore. I didn't let you go back a few years ago because I was worried about your safety. However, you should wait until the exchange of hostages is completed. I can also go with you to the 9 regions world to take a look. Yen Tianpa said. That won't do. You are the realm master of the Wuji world and your clone is currently busy. It will be dangerous for your main body to go. The white-clothed woman said. You don't see people as good as me. Night Sorrow looked straight at me and didn't have any evil aura. He's not that kind of person. Yen Tianpa said. Speak. Chapter 963. If he comes again, I'll talk to him. Hiding here while the 9 regions world is in danger, I don't have the face to face him, said the white-robed woman. I don't have the face to do what I should do for you. It's enough, said Yen Tianpa. After Night Sorrow's soul avatar met up with his main body, he returned to the 9 regions world and went to Sky City. Why are you back so quickly? Aoi looked at Night Sorrow in astonishment. Things have come to an end. I'm here to bring someone back. Yishan explained the situation in the Wuji world. It shouldn't be a problem. If a world master goes back on his word, it would be immoral. He wouldn't do such a thing, said Wu Lingfei. Then let's just wait for the news, said Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow arrived at the place where Shang Jingchun was imprisoned. There's progress in the exchange of hostages. Now enter my spatial treasure. We'll go to Sky City, said Night Sorrow to Shang Jingchun. I'm not going to enter your spatial treasure, said Shang Jingchun. You're not afraid that I'll deal with you. The main thing is that it's inconvenient to go to Sky City's spatial turbulence. If you don't want to enter, then let your father send someone to bring the hostages to the 9 regions world, said Night Sorrow. He didn't believe that Shang Jingchun could persist. Wait. Shang Jingchun hesitated for a moment before calling out to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow took out the Spacetime Pagoda and put Shang Jingchun and his maid into the bottom level of the Spacetime Pagoda. After that, Night Sorrow greeted a group of people and left Sky City. After arriving at Nanli Region's spatial barrier, he passed through it and entered Sky City. After arriving at the nearest city, Night Sorrow teleported to Sky City. In the courtyard, Yen Tianpa and the white-robed woman were talking about something. With the protection of the world energy, this is the true body. Let's sit down and talk. There are still many things to talk about. Of course, it's not me, it's her. Yen Tianpa pointed at the veiled white-clothed woman to Night Sorrow. Su Dao greets Sector Lord. The white-clothed woman bowed slightly towards Night Sorrow. You know me, Su Dao? Night Sorrow was astonished. Then have you heard of the Void Dao Saint King? The white-clothed woman took off her veil, revealing her delicate face. A Saint King of the Void Path is a sage from 10,000 years ago. Wait, are you his descendant? Night Sorrow asked the woman. She was also a mid-level Saint King. No, I am Lin Ruoxu. 10,000 years ago in the heaven-sealing Great Hall, I obtained the title of Void Tao. The woman looked at Night Sorrow and said, "You are a senior Saint King of the Void Path?" Night Sorrow looked at the woman in shock. As the woman spoke, Night Sorrow was stunned. His heart was moved. He bowed deeply towards the woman. "Saint King of the Void Path has suffered. Junior Night Sorrow is here to bring you home, to our home." At this moment, Night Sorrow understood everything. That year when the Saint King of the Void Path self-detonated, his soul fell into the turbulence of the shattered space. He was saved by Yen Tianpa, who was watching the battle. Because he was heavily injured, he was in a deep sleep for many years. He woke up 300 years ago, and with Yen Tianpa's help, he used heavenly treasures to reconstruct his body. "Alright, after you are done with your matters, I will go back with you," Lin Ruoxu said. "Many thanks to Flame World Lord for taking care of the Sage of the Nine Regions world. In the future, if Flame World Lord needs anything, just send a message to Night Sorrow. I will definitely not reject you." Night Sorrow said. World Lord Night is very capable. I admire you. How about this? I will not stop World Lord Night from moving around the Wuji world. If I go to the Nine Regions world, don't have any ideas. Yen Tianpa said. Naturally, there is no problem. The Nine Regions world will always welcome Flame World Lord as a guest. Night Sorrow said. Following which, Night Sorrow stayed in the Nine Regions world under Yen Tianpa's arrangements. Lin Ruoxu kept asking Night Sorrow about the Nine Regions world. Night Sorrow explained everything to him. If World Lord was born 10,000 years earlier, then Clear Sky Saint King and Central Continent Saint King wouldn't have to die in battle. This is the regret of our generation. This time, I didn't return in time. I hope World Lord won't blame me. Lin Ruoxu sighed and said. World Lord Knight, you can't blame me. Ruoxu didn't return because she hasn't recovered to the peak of the Saint King realm. There isn't much meaning for her to return. I was the one who stopped her. Yen Tianpa said. How can I have any thoughts? Void Tao Saint King is the sage of our Nine Regions world. Everyone remembers him. Also, Central Continent Saint King is regretful. Clear Sky Saint King has already reincarnated. He is doing very well now. He also participated in this war. Night Sorrow said. He could see that Lin Ruoxu missed Clear Sky Saint King and Central Continent Saint King. Brother Qianhua is still here. Lin Ruoxu stood up and said emotionally. Yes, he has already reincarnated. Night Sorrow nodded. World Lord Night, do your things. Ruoxu won't return. Yen Tianpa said. That's my brother. What are you thinking? Lin Ruoxu glanced at Yen Tianpa and frowned. Aha, I didn't say anything just now. Yen Tianpa laughed. At this time, Night Sorrow also understood what was going on. He also laughed. He felt that this matter was pretty good. Night Sorrow rested in the courtyard that Yen Tianpa prepared for him. He couldn't cultivate now because he had reached a bottleneck. If he couldn't touch the will of heaven and earth, he wouldn't be able to enter the king realm. As for Yen Tianpa, Night Sorrow knew that he was a big shot in the king realm because he couldn't see his cultivation. Every day, Yen Tianpa and Lin Ruoxu would look for Night Sorrow to drink tea and chat. The others were all pirated copies. World Lord Night, with your situation, you have to go to the Sky Profound world or other worlds to have a chance of breaking through. Back then, I also secretly went to the Sky Profound world to break through my bottleneck. However, you have to be careful. The worlds don't have human feelings. Everything is about benefits. Yen Tianpa said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was priceless advice. Half a month later, the black-robed Yenwu Absolute came. World Lord, the matter is settled. We asked them for 300 Saint Spirit stones. They felt the pain but agreed. Their people and hostages are in the two extreme city. Yenwu Absolute said to Yen Tianpa. Let them bring their people to the plaza of the sky-bearing palace and wait. Tell them that this time, we are exchanging hostages. If they dare to make a move, I will definitely kill them. Moreover, I will kill my way to their nest. Yan Tianpe said. Domineering and overbearing. Knight Sorrow knew that Yan Tianpe had the qualifications. He and Shang Tianfeng were both big shots in the King realm. Yan Tianpe had an advantage. He had a world of his own. He could send his clones out to fight. His original body was immortal. If he fought unscrupulously, the Sky's South Empire wouldn't be able to withstand it. World Lord Knight, don't make a move. If you do, it will be hard for me. If you want to fight, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Yan Tianpe said to Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow understands. I will not make things difficult for World Lord Flame. Knight Sorrow nodded. Speak. Chapter 964. Not long after, Yan Tianpe nodded towards Yishang. Their people have arrived. Realm Lord Yi, you can bring your people over. I won't show my face. Ruoxu, you follow them. If they don't keep their word, you can kill them. Wu Ju and the others know you and will cooperate with you. Okay, then we'll go. Lin Ruoxu nodded to Yan Tianpe. Knight Sorrow also brought Shang Jingchuan and the female saint out of the pagoda. Shang Jingchuan's limbs had already recovered. As a peak saint king, a little external injury was nothing. Knight Sorrow and Lin Ruoxu brought their people to the sky-bearing palace. Knight Sorrow saw many people in front of the palace. There were people from the Tiannan dynasty holding Yi Tian down. Since you're exchanging hostages in the Wuji world, you have to follow our rules. You have to hand the hostages over to us. Before that, you have to remove the tricks you used on the hostages. Although you're a peak Saint King, you have to be honest. Remember, Saint Kings don't have the right to be arrogant in the Wuji world. Yan Wujue looked around and his gaze landed on Shang Jingchuan. Yishang retracted Shang Jingchuan's void true qi from the Saintess Dantian and glared at Yishang. Shang Jingchuan walked over to the guards of the Everlasting World City Lord's mansion. He didn't dare to act rashly. This was the Everlasting City. Peak Saint Kings didn't have the right to be arrogant. This was the Everlasting World's world. The Tiannan dynasty also handed Yi Tian over to the City Lord's mansion's guards. Do you think there's a problem? If there's no problem, you can return to your own camp, said Yan Wujue. Shang Jingchuan and Yi Tian knew whether there was a problem or not. They both returned to their own camps. Knight Sorrow, the enmity between us isn't over. I'll definitely destroy the 9 regions world. Shang Jingchuan looked at Knight Sorrow coldly. This was a great humiliation to him. He knew that Shang Tianfeng had saved him because of their father-son relationship. But if he didn't do it well, it would be impossible for him to have any power in the Tiannan dynasty in the future. You want to fight? Then you can tell everyone in the everlasting world that our battle to the death has nothing to do with anyone. Do you dare? Knight Sorrow looked coldly at Shang Jingchuan. Humph, let's go. Shang Jingchuan coldly snorted and left with his people. How would he dare to fight? He knew that if he was not a king-tier cultivator, he would not be a match for Knight Sorrow. He had witnessed Knight Sorrow's battle prowess with his own eyes. The 2 peak stage Saint Kings that he had brought along in Kuei Long had all been killed by Knight Sorrow. Remember, if I can take care of you once, I can take care of you twice. You better not fall into my hands, because next time, you won't have a chance to live, Knight Sorrow said. Shang Jingchuan left without looking back. No matter how he fought back, it was useless. Knight Sorrow had asked him if he dared to fight, and he had nothing else to say. Many thanks. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands towards Yan Wujue and the others. RZ version, World Lord Knight is too polite. Yan Wujue cupped his hands towards Knight Sorrow. After that, Knight Sorrow and Lin Ruoxu brought Yi Tian back to the courtyard that Yan Tianpe had arranged for them. Moon Empress, you've suffered. Night Sorrow bowed to Yi Tian. It's nothing. Without your help, I would still be in their cage. Yi Tian shook his head. Moon Empress, my grandfather is Yi Linghuan. I'm your junior, said Night Sorrow. Linghuan's grandson? You're Linghuan's grandson? Yi Tian was a bit emotional. Back in the cage, he had been muddle-headed and hadn't heard the conversation between Yi Linghuan and Night Sorrow. Yes. Rest for a while, and then we'll return to the Nine Regions world. Night Sorrow looked at Yi Tian. Yi Tian's cultivation base was still at the peak of the Saint Realm. Because he had been imprisoned after leaving the Nine Regions world, his cultivation base hadn't advanced. There's no need. I'm in good condition. Yi Tian said. All right. Senior, are you coming back with me? Night Sorrow nodded towards Yi Tian and then looked at Lin Ruoxu. Yes, I'll go with you. Lin Ruoxu nodded. I'll go too. Yen Tianpa also spoke. Then the group left the everlasting city. After a few teleportation arrays, they arrived at the spatial barrier of the Nine Regions world. Let's set up a teleportation array in the future. That way, we can teleport directly. Flying from Flying Cloud City is really troublesome, said Yen Tianpa. Night Sorrow didn't say anything. This was a matter of the everlasting city. He couldn't interfere. Soon after, Night Sorrow's energy enveloped Yi Tian. Yen Tianpa brought Lin Ruoxu along as he tore through space and traversed through the chaotic flow of space. Soon, the group arrived at the spatial barrier of the Nine Regions world. Night Sorrow tore through space and entered the Nine Regions world. However, there was a problem. Yen Tianpa couldn't enter. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't enter the Nine Regions world. The area he tried to break through was the spatial turbulence. The Nine Regions world kept rejecting him. Night Sorrow controlled the Nine Regions world's source energy to stabilize the space. At the same time, he communicated with the Nine Regions origin pearl. Only then did Yen Tianpa enter the Nine Regions world. The laws of the Nine Regions world are too strong. If it weren't for your control, I wouldn't have been able to enter. Yen Tianpa turned around and looked at the spatial barrier. Yes. Now that Saint Kings can't enter the Nine Regions world, it can be said that the Nine Regions world is very safe. Night Sorrow said. It seems that the Nine Regions world is of a higher level than the everlasting city. The everlasting city can only resist King Realm cultivators. It can't stop Saint Kings from entering. Yen Tianpa looked up at the sky of the Nine Regions world and said. Then, Night Sorrow led the group to the city in the sky. This is my home. Elder Ling Lan, go to Night Moon City and inform them that Lord Moon Empress has returned. Also, ask the Divine Moon Emperor to bring Senior Qianhua here. Tell them that we are meeting with old friends. Night Sorrow instructed Yi Ling Lan. Following this, Yi Shang led everyone to his own residence. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing both came to greet him. Yi Tian had never seen Yi Wuyo before, but he was very happy to see a junior at this time. Moon Empress Great Ancestor, these are my 3 wives. Night Sorrow introduced his wives to Yi Tian. Yi Tian was very excited because Night Moon had a successor. While everyone was chatting, Night Moon's Emperor and Yi Qianhua came. Night Moon's Emperors and Yi Linghuan all knelt down to greet Yi Tian. Yi Qianhua's eyes were fixed on Lin Ruoxu. After Night Moon finished greeting, he opened his mouth. Are you little sister Ruoxu? I am brother Qianhua. I am Ruoxu. Lin Ruoxu's face was crying. The battle that year was too tragic. The 3 Saint Kings who were as close as brothers never met again. Then, Night Sorrow stood up and told everyone about Lin Ruoxu's identity. At this time, everyone present bowed. Because the Void Dao Saint King was a hero of the Nine Regions world. He was a senior and had to be respected. Also, let me introduce this person. He is a friend of the Void Dao Saint King, the Flame World Lord of the Everlasting City. Next, we can be friends with the everlasting city. This way, it won't be a problem if we want to go to the mysterious sky world. Night Sorrow said. Say. Chapter 965. Everyone cupped their hands. The world master of a world had a noble status. After chatting for a while, Night Moon's people brought Yi Tian away. Yi Wuyo and his wife also went over. However, Night Sorrow didn't go. He was still accompanying Yan Tianpa and Lin Ruoxu. In addition, Night Sorrow didn't have any feelings for Yi Tian. He had only seen him once in the previous battle. This was only the second time. Your place isn't bad. Give us a place to stay. Ruoxu, bring me around, said Yan Tianpa. Sure. But can you see if you can set up a world transfer array? That way, it'll be more convenient for our 9 regions world to communicate with the Wuji world, said Lin Ruoxu. Since you've asked, of course. I just happen to have 2 world transfer crystals. We can set them up. Our 2 worlds are close to each other. We can set them up in large cities. That's convenient. But for safety, we have to guard them well. That way, we can avoid some trouble, said Yan Tianpa. Okay. Then I'll have to trouble World Master, said Night Sorrow with a smile. It's nothing. Sometimes, I'm very unyielding. But sometimes, I have to compromise, said Yan Tianpa. You're speaking nonsense again. World Master Night, World Master Flame and I will just walk around. We haven't seen the 9 regions world for 10,000 years. Lin Ruoxu stood up. Then, Lin Ruoxu and Yan Tianpa left. Night Sorrow, what's going on? Asked Yang Lei. That's the situation. You should know, said Night Sorrow with a smile. Then, everyone laughed. Now that Yi Tian was rescued, Night Sorrow didn't have any pressure. He could truly settle down. Night Sorrow brought his 3 wives, Xuexi and Father Gu to the lake to drink tea and chat. Tianyu, Yi Mei, and the god-slaying team had all gone out to train. They were all improving their combat strength. Night Sorrow, I told you when you were young that you had to be responsible. However, you almost got into trouble. Is it appropriate for you to let Miss Xuexi follow you like this? Old Man Gu looked at Night Sorrow and said. Dad, this isn't Night Sorrow's problem. I just think this is good. Xuexi pulled her father's arm and said. Sigh, then you guys handle it yourselves. Old Man Gu sighed. There were some things that he couldn't understand. Pops, you have to work hard and strive for Type 5. Night Sorrow looked at Papa Gu and took out some Origin spiritual liquid and Life spiritual liquid for him. Father Gu nodded. He knew that Night Sorrow didn't need him to have much combat strength. He just needed him to have a high cultivation and a long lifespan. In the following days, Night Sorrow was very relaxed. He spent every day with his 3 wives and Xuexi. Night Sorrow did not know why Xuexi insisted. As long as Xuexi asked, he would give her a name. On this day, when Night Sorrow was drinking tea, Yan Tianpa and Lin Ruoxu returned to Sky City. Realm Lord Night's life is not bad. However, you still have to pursue something. Go to Sky Profound World or other large worlds and find a place where there is no one and slowly cultivate. After entering the King Realm, you can come back and cultivate slowly. At that time, you can send a soul clone out and do big things. Yan Tianpa looked at Night Sorrow and said. I will. I will spend this time with my family. Night Sorrow said. You did well in this aspect. Much better than me. When I was cultivating, my family left me one by one. It was very sad. Yan Tianpa said. Don't think so much. Aren't you doing well now? Lin Ruoxu poured a cup of tea for Yan Tianpa and said. The only original is V, the other is Q, Y is a pirated copy. What's so good about it? Realm Lord Night has 3 wives. I am still single. Yen Tianpa said and looked at Lin Ruoxu. Senior, don't call me Realm Lord Knight. My name is Night Sorrow. You can call me by my name. The same goes for Void Dao Saint King. You are a senior of the 9-domain world. You can call me by my name in the future. Night Sorrow said. Void Dao Saint King, don't call me that. That was in the past. However, what is more suitable for you to call me? Lin Ruoxu said. How about this, Night Sorrow? Don't call me Flame Realm Lord. I am older than you. If you don't mind, you can call me Uncle. As for her, there will be a suitable name in the future. Yen Tianpa said with a smile. All right. Since the two of you are my seniors, I will call you Uncle and Aunt. Night Sorrow said. That's right. That's much more comfortable. Kid, work harder. When you enter the King Realm, we will go to the Sky Profound World and wreak havoc. The Sky Profound World is too shameless. Yen Tianpa was very happy and spoke his thoughts. They always think that they are better than others. They even use the saint crystals of our world's cultivators as materials. This is simply intolerable. Thinking of the Sky Profound World's actions, Night Sorrow was also very angry. In the past, the Everlasting World was the same. That's why Uncle also hates them. However, we were alone and could not defeat them. Yen Tianpa said. Night Sorrow nodded. He could also understand. When the Everlasting World did not have a world master, it was also a subsidiary world that was bullied. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow and Yen Tianpa went to set up the realm transmission array. The two of them discussed for a while and felt that it was better to keep the realm transmission array a secret. There was no need to open it to the public. A limited number of people could teleport it. In the end, they decided to set it up in the side halls of the Sky City and the Sky Bearing Palace. Night Sorrow set up the transmission array in the loft next to his residence. After that, Yen Tianpa placed the transmission crystal and another transmission crystal's split body. Looking at the transmission crystal, Night Sorrow knew that it was an extremely expensive top-grade transmission crystal. The realm transmission crystal could be used to teleport across realms. Of course, it could only be used between realms that were relatively close to each other. After that, Night Sorrow and Yen Tianpa went to the Everlasting World. They set up a transmission array in the side hall of the Sky Bearing Palace and set up the transmission crystal. As the transmission crystal lit up, the 9-domain world and the Everlasting World could be officially teleported. Let's go. I'll introduce you to some people. Yen Tianpa brought Night Sorrow into the Sky Bearing Palace. Greetings, Realm Master. Everyone in the Sky Bearing Palace bowed. All of you listen up. From today onwards, only I, Realm Master Knight and Lin Xingqing can enter the side hall where the transmission array was set up. Anyone else who approaches will be killed. Without even taking the main seat, Yen Tianpa gave the order. After Yen Tianpa finished speaking, everyone in the palace bowed and accepted the order. Remember this Realm Lord Yi. Right now, he is also this lord's nephew. Emin, you should know what this lord means. Yen Tianpa patted Yi Shang's shoulder. After hearing Yen Tianpa's words, everyone in the hall bowed towards Yi Shang and greeted him as young master. Night Sorrow also cupped his fists towards everyone and returned the greeting. Alright, let's go and have a drink. After that, we'll go to the Sky Profound World's 2 Extreme City to take a look. Yen Tianpa was in high spirits. He was indeed happy about the recent events. Speak. Third Watch. Chapter 966. In the eyes of those who didn't know them, Night Sorrow and Yen Tianpa were just 2 ordinary people. Once they entered the Saint King realm, they would be able to return to their original state. At their realm, their auras wouldn't leak out at all. After finding a restaurant, Yi Shang took out the wine he had brought. The two of them ate some dishes and chatted casually. Night Sorrow, how much do you know about the king's realm? After drinking a mouthful of wine, Yen Tianpo looked at Night Sorrow and asked. I don't know much about it. I just know that one needs to comprehend the will of heaven and earth, which is the true meaning of the heavenly way. As for how to comprehend it, I don't have any idea. Night Sorrow really didn't have any clue, and there was nothing he could hide. Permanent exemption from fees. In the 9-domain world, it wasn't easy for you to grow to this level. I was able to reach this level because of the help of a senior. Today, I also hope to be able to help you. Yen Tianpo's thoughts drifted a little. Then many thanks, uncle. Night Sorrow said. I was distracted. It's mainly because I missed that senior. There are many types of true meaning of the heavenly way, and they are also divided into different levels. Every king's realm cultivator can comprehend different things. For example, the true meaning of thick earth is easier for earth attribute cultivators to come into contact with. The true meaning of profound fire is the path for fire attribute cultivators to walk. There are also some special true meanings, such as slaughter intent, sword intent, saber intent, and so on that don't exist in the attribute. Yen Tianpo patiently explained to Night Sorrow. With Yen Tianpo's explanation, Night Sorrow understood a little. There were many types of true meaning of the heavenly way, and it could even be said that there was no way to understand them all, because a true meaning that didn't appear could appear at any time. When comprehending a true meaning, one couldn't deliberately pursue a specific type because it would be difficult to comprehend if it didn't fit. What one needed to do was to let nature take its course. The king's realm cultivators were also divided into 9 levels. For example, if one comprehended the true meaning of profound fire, they would be in the 1-star king's realm. If one comprehended 3 parts, they would be in the 3-star king's realm. After entering the king's realm, the increase in cultivation was mainly dependent on one's comprehension ability. If one's comprehension ability was high, then they would be able to comprehend true intent quickly and quickly. Only then would their cultivation be able to increase along with their realm. In other words, once you enter the king realm, the bottleneck will always be there. You won't be able to continuously increase your cultivation base, said Night Sorrow. That's right. With each step, there's a bottleneck. With each step, there's a ladder to the heavens. Even though we're all king realm cultivators, there's still a huge gap between us. The senior who guided me was killed by another king realm cultivator because his realm wasn't very high. However, I don't have the ability to avenge him. Yen Tianpo sighed. In such a situation, Night Sorrow was also helpless. He couldn't help Yen Tianpo in any way. Whenever you go to the sky profound world, just find a place where the heavenly Tao's influence is stronger. After that, just cultivate in seclusion. Remember, don't have too much contact with others. Killing is everywhere. Unless you have a very strong backer, but we don't. Yen Tianpo said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that Yen Tianpo's words were priceless advice. He had also walked step by step to reach this point. After that, Yen Tianpo brought Night Sorrow to Two Poles City to let Night Sorrow experience a mature world. There are many worlds on the same level as the Sky Profound world. Furthermore, they're all connected by teleportation arrays. When the time comes, you can choose a suitable place to cultivate. Yen Tianpo said to Night Sorrow. This world is indeed mature. It has a grand aura that our 9 regions world doesn't have. Night Sorrow expressed his feelings. A mature world has countless years of growth. It's not something a new world can compare to. Yen Tianpo smiled. Back then, when he had just left the everlasting world, he also had the same feeling. After drinking, they walked around and introduced Night Sorrow to the upper echelons of the everlasting world in Two Poles City. After that, Yen Tianpo and Night Sorrow returned to the everlasting world and teleported to the city in the sky. In the following period of time, Night Sorrow accompanied his family. Yen Tianpo and Lin Ruoxu walked around the 9 regions world. However, Yen Tianpo was only in the 9 regions world. There were some spatial barriers that he couldn't pass through. 2 months later, Yen Tianpo bid farewell to Night Sorrow. He came to accompany Lin Ruoxu. Lin Ruoxu saw the situation in the Nine Regions world and felt very at ease. The two of them planned to return to the everlasting world. After Yen Tianpa and Lin Ruoxu left, Knight Sorrow also planned to move. He needed to charge towards the King Realm. If he didn't leave the Nine Regions world, he wouldn't have the chance to enter the King Realm. The Sky Profound world was too dangerous. Knight Sorrow didn't bring anyone with him. At the same time, he left the time-space pagoda behind. He wanted to comprehend the true intent of heaven and earth. The time-space pagoda's acceleration was ineffective. To comprehend the true intent of heaven and earth, one had to be in direct contact with heaven and earth. After greeting his family, Knight Sorrow took the teleportation array to the everlasting city. After passing through the everlasting city, Knight Sorrow teleported to the Two-Pole City in the Sky Profound world. When he arrived at the Two-Pole City, Knight Sorrow found an inn to stay in. He bought a map and understood the Sky Profound world. He wouldn't act rashly. As he understood, Knight Sorrow understood some of the situation in the Sky Profound world. The Sky Profound world was too big. It was 1,000 times the size of the Nine Regions world. It was imaginable that there were countless forces. The structure of the forces were different. Sects, clans, alliances, etc. Those with a King Realm expert were peak forces. Those with a peak stage Saint King were second-class forces. Those below third-class forces would have to rely on the major forces to survive. This was the structure of the forces in the Sky Profound world. After pondering for a while, Knight Sorrow also understood why a second-class force with a peak stage Saint King could exist under the pressure of a peak force. It was true that a top-notch force could easily devour a second-rate force, but if a peak stage Saint King escaped, that crazy revenge would be very difficult to bear. Moreover, who knew which peak stage Saint King would suddenly become enlightened and enter the Sovereign King realm? This was a kind of invisible energy, and also a small deterrent. Knight Sorrow pondered for a while. He felt that his original body could find a place to cultivate while his clone could go out and explore. He could also look for resources. After having this idea, Knight Sorrow took action. He wanted to find a place with a vile environment to cultivate. Knight Sorrow's target was the Splitting Wind Cliff, which was some distance away from the everlasting city. There were spatial cracks there and the spatial storms were the strongest. If he wanted to enter the King Realm, he had to choose the true meaning of the will of heaven and earth. Knight Sorrow wanted to choose a place that was compatible with his attribute. There were too few places where the will of heaven and earth manifested with the void attribute and time attribute. He could only take a step back and look for the will of heaven and earth that was more compatible with his own laws to comprehend. After reaching the place, Knight Sorrow finally understood why there were no forces occupying this place. It was mainly because it was too vile. This place had a very strong spatial attribute will of heaven and earth manifested. Spatial blades flew everywhere within a few thousand miles. If one's cultivation was not high enough, they would be torn apart. Feeling that this place was suitable, Knight Sorrow planned to leave his original body here and use his clone to find another place where the will of heaven and earth manifested. He was naturally not satisfied with just comprehending one true meaning. The King Realm competed with the true meaning of the will of heaven and earth. If he had two true meanings, his battle prowess would be much stronger. In addition, he also wanted to go to the Tian-Nan dynasty to see if there were any movements from the Tian-Nan dynasty. Was there any movement against the Nine Domains world? Speak. Chapter 967. At this moment, Shang Tianfeng was sitting in the main seat in the Tian-Nan dynasty's main hall, his body still bathed in flames. The world overlord of the limitless realm is simply relying on the fact that his true body is undying and indestructible in his own world while his clones can roam the world outside. This subordinate will wait outside the limitless city. If he comes out, this subordinate will send a message to the Emperor Lord to kill him. Gong Yanglai spoke. Alright, I'll have General Yuan follow you. His cultivation base is higher than yours, and he might be able to see through the limitless world's realm master's foundation. Even if his clone comes out, you'll be able to determine his cultivation base. His clone is the Azure Flood Dragon Clan's clone technique, and it's the same level as his true body, said Shang Tianfeng. Gong Yanglai bowed to receive the order and left the main hall. Chunner, do you know you've made a mistake? Asked Shang Tianfeng. Only the two of them were left in the hall. I don't know. They're too strong, and my men aren't a match for them, said Shang Jingchun. You still don't understand. First, it's about status. What's Bo Qinghan's status? What's your status? Why didn't you send him? Why did you take the risk yourself? Asked Shang Jingchun. I understand. I won't make such a mistake in the future, said Shang Jingchun. Shang Tianfeng looked at Shang Jingchun, then left the hall. Knight Zoro's true body was meditating outside Windbreaker Cliff. His spiritual strength was enveloping the Windbreaker Cliff spatial wind blades as he comprehended the will of heaven and earth. His soul avatar could not cultivate the true meaning of heaven and earth as it walked around the profound heaven world. Hence, it had to understand the situation better. Yi Shang was not worried about his safety. His clone had the cultivation of a peak holy king and had the supreme attribute. It also had 90% of the original body's battle prowess. As long as it did not meet any sovereign king cultivators, it would not be in any danger. Knight Zoro had bought many books with anecdotes. He wanted to learn more from them. Knight Zoro's understanding of the heaven profound world increased. The heaven profound world's level was much, much higher than the 9 regions world. Not to mention other things, just in terms of alchemist grade, alchemist grandmasters could not keep up with the pace. In the profound sky world, there were saint-grade alchemists who could refine saint-grade pills. Above them, there were also Saint King-grade alchemists. The ancient records even recorded the pinnacle of alchemists, the King-grade alchemists. Knight Zoro sighed. He knew that he knew a lot, but the inheritance was a big problem. He didn't have an alchemy inheritance that could support his advancement in alchemy. The alchemy inheritance that Feng Chen had passed down could only allow him to cultivate until he became an alchemy grandmaster. After pondering for a moment, Knight Zoro felt that he could seal a part of his cultivation and find an alchemy sect to study alchemy. His soul avatar didn't have any comprehension of the will of heaven and earth, so it couldn't assist in cultivation. However, it could still cultivate alchemy, artifact forging, and array formations. Genuine K. After studying the Book of Anecdotes for a while, Yi Shang decided to go to the Heavenly Cauldron sect to study alchemy. The Tianding Gate was a top force that was famous for alchemy and artifact forging. The gate master was the Tianding King. Knight Zoro felt that since the Tianding Gate was so big, he might not be discovered. After all, he had the ability to return to his original state. In addition, there was the suppression of the rules of nothingness. Not everyone could see the depth of his strength. If he met the Tianding King, his luck would be very bad. With this idea in mind, Knight Zoro took the teleportation array and rushed to the Tianding city. Then, he teleported to the Tianding mountain. At this time, the cultivation that Knight Zoro displayed was that of a mid-level venerable. If his cultivation was too low, he wouldn't be valued and wouldn't be able to obtain a high-level alchemy inheritance. Once again, he was going to enter a sect to learn alchemy. Knight Zoro felt quite emotional. Everything that happened in the Medicine Valley was still vivid in his mind. Knight Zoro came at the right time. When he arrived, it was the day of the Tianding Gates Disciple Recruitment Hall. The Tianding Gates Disciple recruitment was very strict. If one didn't have a stage 4 cultivation or a mid-level alchemy master, they wouldn't accept him. When it was Knight Zoro's turn, the old man in charge of registration nodded at Knight Zoro. A very young mid-level venerable. The Tianding Gate doesn't mind learning from a master. What's your alchemy cultivation level? Greetings, Elder. Knight Zoro has some foundation in alchemy. However, because I don't have anyone to guide me, I want to enter the Tianding Gate. Knight Zoro cupped his hands at the old man. Alright, as long as you have the foundation. I'll let you register first. There will be an assessment later. If you have the foundation and have the talent for alchemy, there won't be a problem. The old man smiled and nodded. Knight Sorrow had the power of the world and the ability to return to his original state. He gave off a very good feeling. Thank you, Elder. Knight Sorrow finished speaking and went to the side to wait. After everyone finished registering, the alchemy assessment began. Of course, there were also alchemy assessment. The Tianding Gate's auxiliary skills were alchemy and alchemy. This time, they were accepting disciples with auxiliary skills. Normally, they would accept disciples with cultivation skills after a year. Then, it was the assessment. Knight Sorrow brought his alchemy furnace and took the spirit distraction pill from the Tianding Gate's preparation materials. He casually refined it. Knight Sorrow didn't want to be too ostentatious. He just wanted to enter the sect and cultivate alchemy. However, he didn't dare to be too low-key. If he didn't pass, they wouldn't accept him. Looking at Knight Sorrow, the old man nodded. Your concoction technique is a bit low. However, without anyone to guide you, it's not easy for you to reach this level. You pass. Knight Sorrow nodded at the old man. He was very satisfied to be able to enter the sect. After the disciple recruitment ceremony ended, Knight Sorrow and a group of people were brought to the heavenly cauldron mountain by the old man. Subsequently, the various elders came to select disciples. The first person to select a disciple was Knight Sorrow. This was a young woman that looked to be around 30 years old, and she selected a few others. Knight Sorrow followed this young woman to a mountain called West Hua Mountain. I'm West Radiance Peak's Jing Lan. All of you are now nominal disciples of the West Radiance Peak. You can become official disciples when you become an alchemy grandmaster and can refine mid-grade grade 6 medicinal pills. The middle-aged woman, Jing Lan, said to them. After arriving at the West Radiance Peak, Knight Sorrow slowly understood some things. The West Radiance Peak's position in the Tianding Gate was very awkward. The Peak Master, Chu Danxian, didn't like to communicate with others, so her relationship with the others in the Tianding Gate wasn't very good. It could even be said that she was ostracized everywhere. Knight Sorrow knew that relationships were needed everywhere. In the past, when the Tianding Gate recruited disciples, it was always the West Radiance Peak's turn to pick the leftovers. This time, the elder that was in charge of recruiting disciples had a good personal relationship with Chu Danxian, so he allowed Jing Lan to choose first. Besides that, Knight Sorrow also noticed that the disciples of the West Radiance Peak were very undisciplined and lacked spirit. But Knight Sorrow didn't care about all this. What he cared about was who he wanted to learn alchemy from. Even if there was no one to teach him, he had to be provided with a book on alchemy, otherwise, how would he learn? After staying for a few days, Knight Sorrow asked someone, and then he found out that the new disciples hadn't taken the oath of entrance and were unable to formally learn alchemy. Fortunately, it wasn't long before someone brought Knight Sorrow and a few new disciples to the West Radiance Pavilion and took the oath of not betraying the Tianding Gate. With the oath of entrance, Knight Sorrow possessed some authority, and that was the ability to enter the treasury to look for books to read. On this day, when Knight Sorrow was studying books, he was shouted out by someone. The person that's lacking an assistant is you. Speak. Chapter 968. She was also a young woman that looked to be around 20 years old. Since she had called for him to be her assistant, Knight Sorrow could only follow along. Knight Sorrow followed the young woman to a pill refinement room. There were two people standing guard outside the pill refinement room. The young woman brought Knight Sorrow into the pill refinement room. Master, I went to look for someone else, but they all said they were busy, so I casually grabbed someone and brought them over, said the young woman. Which elder are you following? What's your current level in pill refinement? Asked the young woman in a blue dress. I just entered the sect, and I haven't followed any elder, said Knight Sorrow. Tang Yuan, this is the supplementary material for the 5-spirit pill that you found as an assistant. You must be a high-grade pill refiner to refine it. The young woman in a blue dress glared at Tang Yuan. High-grade pill refiner? I think I can do it, said Night Sorrow. Then refine a grade 5 medicinal pill for me to see. The young woman in a blue dress nodded. Look small, speak small, speak. Night Sorrow found the materials for the clear void pill in the pill refinement room and refined a cauldron of clear void pills. Holding the medicinal pill that Night Sorrow refined, the young woman looked at it seriously for a moment before nodding, and then she tossed a piece of paper that was filled with supplementary materials to Night Sorrow. Not bad, take a look at the supplementary materials for the refinement first. You can't make any mistakes when the time comes. Night Sorrow looked at it and nodded. He knew that she might be refining a high-grade medicinal pill, and it was already good that he could follow along. Go back and study it. Come back 3 days later. Tang Yuan, go tell Elder Jing that he'll come over to Master's place in the future. After the young woman finished speaking, she didn't pay any more attention to Night Sorrow and went to study the medicinal pill materials that were placed at the side. Tang Yuan found Jing Lan and told him about Night Sorrow's arrangements. Night Sorrow was stunned when he heard this because the young woman in a blue dress was actually the peak master of the West Radiance Peak, Chu Danxian. However, Night Sorrow didn't say anything. Chu Danxian was a 6-star saint, so she wouldn't be able to see through his depth. As for Tang Yuan, she was named by Chu Danxian. In the past, her name was Ku Kai. Her parents died early and she lived like a stray dog. She was picked up by Chu Danxian, and because it was the Lantern Festival, she changed her name to Tang Yuan. For the next few days, Night Sorrow had been researching how to refine the 5-spirit pill. The 5-spirit pill was a 7th level pill, and a high-grade one at that. It could allow a person to enter an ethereal state and increase the chances of returning to one's original state. After studying Night Sorrow for 2 days, he finally understood. On the 3rd day, Tang Yuan once again called for Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow was living in a separate courtyard not far from the pill refining room. After entering the pill refining room, Chu Danxian gave him a task. Tang Yuan was in charge of concocting the materials, Night Sorrow was in charge of refining the supplementary materials, and she was in charge of refining the main materials. Night Sorrow nodded. He didn't have any problems refining the 5th level supplementary materials. After that, Chu Danxian started to refine the 5-spirit pill's main materials. Night Sorrow waited at the side. He understood Chu Danxuan's plan. She was worried that her pill flame and soul energy wouldn't be enough, so she got someone else to refine the supplementary materials. She was only in charge of refining the main materials and fusing them, as well as the steps of condensing the pill. This way, she could avoid some problems. Chu Danxian spoke very little and practically didn't communicate with Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan. Night Sorrow didn't mind this. He looked at Chu Danxuan's pill refining technique and compared it with what he saw in books. 2 hours later, Chu Danxian called out to Night Sorrow and asked Night Sorrow to start refining the supplementary materials. Be careful. If there's a problem, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Tang Yuan fiercely glared at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow just smiled. He didn't care about Tang Yuan's gaze. One's state of mind determined one's attitude. Night Sorrow felt that Tang Yuan only wanted to show off in front of Chu Danxian, so there was no need to care. Night Sorrow continuously refined all kinds of supplementary materials and then handed them to Chu Danxian to fuse with the main materials. The 5-spirit pill was a high-grade saint-tier pill, and it was very complicated. Just the supplementary materials alone required over 20 kinds. But that wasn't a problem for Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow finished refining each of the supplementary materials in just a moment. Night Sorrow's technique was a bit rusty, but he was able to refine them in an orderly manner. Both Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan were flabbergasted. That was because Night Sorrow's refining speed was very fast. When the final supplementary material called green bamboo leaf juice was refined, Night Sorrow's work was completed. But at this time, a problem occurred. Chu Danxian failed to fuse the green bamboo leaf juice, and it didn't reach her expectations of condensing the pill. The green bamboo leaf juice couldn't perfectly fuse with the main materials and supplementary materials. Give me another portion of green bamboo leaf juice. Chu Danxian instructed Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan. Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan followed Chu Danxuan's instructions. Night Sorrow really wanted to say that Chu Danxian was a fraud. He had refined over 10 portions of green bamboo leaf juice, but Chu Danxian still hadn't succeeded. Night Sorrow knew that this batch of pills had failed. Because there was too much green bamboo leaf juice, it was impossible to successfully condense the pill. But Night Sorrow couldn't say that because a normal high-level alchemist wouldn't be able to discover it. After having Night Sorrow refine 2 more portions of green bamboo leaf juice, Chu Danxian gave up. She also knew that she had failed long ago, but she didn't want to give up. The price of this batch of pills was too high. Chu Danxian admitted that she had failed, and Night Sorrow left the alchemy room. How could it fail? Chu Danxuan's face was full of confusion. Could it be that the supplementary materials refined by that brat weren't good enough, causing the pill to fail? Tang Yuan immediately thought that it was Night Sorrow's problem. It's not his problem. The supplementary materials he refined were very pure. It could be said that there were no impurities. I don't know which part of the problem occurred. This assistance technique is a bit rusty, but his foundation is very solid. Chu Danxian said. Night Sorrow had continuously refined supplementary materials, and even after refining so many portions of green bamboo leaf juice, he still didn't feel it was strenuous. Chu Danxian wasn't a fool, so she should know Night Sorrow's strength. In the following days, Yi Shang studied alchemy every day. He had spirit stones on him, so he would often go out to buy medicinal ingredients and hone himself in alchemy. Sometimes, Chu Danxian would call Yi Shang to the alchemy room and ask him to refine some 5th-tier medicinal pills. The Heavenly Cauldron sect was famous for its medicinal pills and refining equipment, so they naturally had a medicinal pill business. In addition, they also needed their disciples to cultivate with medicinal pills. When Night Sorrow was refining pills, he got used to the Tianding Gate's alchemy techniques and reorganized his alchemy techniques. After all, there was a big gap between the Tianding Gate's inheritance and the sealed dust handbook. What made Night Sorrow unhappy was that Tang Yuan kept finding fault with him. Even Chu Danxian didn't like him and even used him as a coolie. When she had nothing to do, she would ask Night Sorrow to refine low-grade pills. This wasn't training at all, it was just hard work. In the past, Night Sorrow might not have tolerated this kind of thing, but now he didn't care. If he did, Night Sorrow could crush the 2 of them as easily as crushing a chicken. In the entire Tianding Gate, the only person stronger than Night Sorrow was the Tianding King. In addition, Night Sorrow knew that Tang Yuan, who used to be called Ku Kai, had some bad habits that were ingrained in her bones. Night Sorrow learned to ignore some low-level people. Usually, after completing the tasks that Chu Danxian gave him, Night Sorrow would use the ingredients he bought to refine pills. With the support of the ingredients, Night Sorrow's alchemy skills rose sharply. After 2 months, he became a high-level alchemy master and could aim to become a saint-level alchemy master. When Night Sorrow's clone was constantly studying alchemy, Night Sorrow's main body was still studying the will of the heavens. On this day, when Night Sorrow was refining pills in his residence, a guest came to his courtyard. Night Sorrow stood up to receive the guest. Speak. Chapter 969. The person who came was the old man who had accepted Night Sorrow into the Tianding Gate. Young man, are you used to it? The old man asked with a smile. Thank you for your concern, elder. Fortunately, I can be engrossed in alchemy every day. It's very suitable for this disciple. May I know how to address you, elder? Night Sorrow said. Good attitude. I don't remember my name, but you can call me Elder Xiang. Elder Xiang sat down and said. Night Sorrow took out a teapot, brewed a pot of tea, and poured a cup for the old man. Attitude determines vision and also determines one's achievements. Don't mind some small matters. You might suffer some grievances if I arrange for you to go to the West Radiance Peak, but if I don't arrange for someone to go to the West Radiance Peak, then the West Radiance Peak will decline. Elder Xiang said. Disciple understands. I won't mind. Night Sorrow looked at the old man who was only an intermediate saint and said. He had a good impression of this old man. Although his cultivation wasn't high, he had an extraordinary aura. He understood that if the old man didn't have some outstanding aspects, he wouldn't be able to become a higher up of the Tianding Gate with a cultivation of intermediate saint. After that, the old man chatted with Night Sorrow for a while and asked about Night Sorrow's past. Night Sorrow's answer was that he came from a remote place and didn't come into contact with too many people. However, he liked alchemy. This is a book on alchemy. Take it and study it. Elder Xiang took out a handwritten book and handed it to Night Sorrow. Thank you for your generous gift, Elder. Night Sorrow stood up and bowed to the old man. It's nothing. Work hard. If you really have any questions, you can come to the main peak to find me. Cultivation questions are also fine. Perhaps I can guide you in terms of vision and knowledge, the old man said with a smile. After sending the old man away, Night Sorrow felt a little more at ease. The Tianding Gate could clearly become a saint-grade alchemist. After all, the 5-spirit pill was a top-grade saint-grade pill. However, this was not the limit that Night Sorrow was pursuing. With his current cultivation, he could become a Saint King-grade alchemist. Chu Danxian still treated him as a coolie, but Night Sorrow's refining speed was very fast. If you want me to refine, then I will refine. After finishing my own work, Night Sorrow will then go and refine his own pills. Master, this fellow is so quiet. He's not putting master in his eyes at all. Tang Yuan said as she watched Night Sorrow's departing figure. Look at the original version of the book with Night Sorrow's cultivation. He could naturally hear Tang Yuan's words. This made him feel very helpless. He just didn't curry favor with Tang Yuan like the others, yet Tang Yuan had always been targeting him. Although Night Sorrow wanted to live a peaceful life, Night Sorrow wouldn't curry favor with anyone. Even King couldn't do that. Chu Danxian didn't say anything. Although she didn't like Night Sorrow very much, Night Sorrow was very good at doing things. He has been in the sect for half a year, but his alchemy skills still haven't improved. Master can teach him more strictly. Tang Yuan said. With Tang Yuan adding fuel to the fire, Yishang's days became even more difficult. This was because Chu Danxian had set a goal for Yishang's improvement. She had set a certain level when he would reach and what kind of medicinal pill he would refine. However, Night Sorrow was already a saint-grade alchemist, so this naturally wouldn't be a problem for him. When the time set by Chu Danxian was up, Night Sorrow would naturally meet the requirements. After becoming a saint-grade alchemist, Night Sorrow could refine top-grade 5th-order pills. Night Sorrow kept a portion of these pills because the people of the 9 regions world needed them. Elder Xiang often came to drink tea with Night Sorrow and said some comforting words to Night Sorrow. When Yishang reached the alchemy grandmaster realm that Chu Danxian had requested, his life became a little more comfortable. A saint-level alchemist needed a saint-level cultivation, and Yishang had shown a venerable-level cultivation. Chu Danxian couldn't ask a venerable-level alchemist like Yishang to become a saint-level alchemist. When Night Sorrow wasn't refining pills, he also cultivated formations. He learned from Elder Xiang. When they were chatting, this topic came up by chance. Knowing that Elder Xiang was an expert in this field, Night Sorrow humbly asked for guidance. Besides that, Elder Xiang had also found out about Yishang's situation in the West Radiance Peak, so he brought Yishang to see Chu Danxian and said some words that were implicit, but Chu Danxian was able to understand what he meant. From that day onwards, Chu Danxian came to her senses and didn't make things difficult for Night Sorrow anymore. However, a new problem arose. That was, Chu Danxian wanted Night Sorrow to become a disciple. Night Sorrow was unwilling. Respecting one's master was an iron law that cultivators had to abide by. Night Sorrow only wanted to cultivate and refine pills. He didn't have to betray the Tianding Gate and fulfill his duty for the Tianding Gate. However, in his heart, he still didn't accept Chu Danxian. Knight Sorrow used his low natural talent as an excuse to refuse Chu Danxian. The furious Chu Danxian roared loudly and wanted to expel Knight Sorrow from the sect. This made Knight Sorrow feel very helpless. However, Elder Xiang came at this moment. Elder Xiang, Knight Sorrow came to the Tianding Gate to cultivate and become a disciple of the Tianding Gate, so he'll be bound by the rules of the Tianding Gate. However, his natural talent is inferior and he didn't intend to become a disciple of any sect. A master for a day is a father for life, so Knight Sorrow wasn't mentally prepared as well, said Knight Sorrow. I understand. Knight Sorrow, calm down first. Danxian, you have to understand that taking a disciple is a matter of mutual consent, and it can't be forced in the slightest. If you want to take a disciple, then the first thing you have to do is be a role model for others. Think about it, Knight Sorrow has been at the West Radiance Peak since you've done this. You've slightly disappointed me, and you have to reflect on yourself, said Elder Xiang. Chu Danxuan's eyes were filled with flames as she looked at Knight Sorrow. She was very angry, but she couldn't say anything when facing Elder Xiang. Knight Sorrow, cultivate here. Just remember that you're a disciple of the Tianding Gate. If there's a problem, I believe you'll be able to deal with it properly. Elder Xiang nodded to Knight Sorrow before leaving. Knight Sorrow, you're really something. Chu Danxian spoke coldly before turning around and leaving. Knight Sorrow was left behind by himself, and he sighed helplessly. It's not easy to even be an ordinary disciple. Is this the large world? After he stabilized his state of mind, Knight Sorrow continued to refine pills and charge towards proficiency. As for Chu Danxuan's difficulties, Knight Sorrow didn't mind because he wasn't wrong and had an indomitable spirit that had a clear conscience. Truthfully speaking, Knight Sorrow felt that Chu Danxian wasn't suitable to be his master in any aspect. No matter if it was character, virtue, or strength, she didn't have the qualifications. Speak. Chapter 970. After being rebuffed by Knight Sorrow, Chu Danxian never came to look for Knight Sorrow again. Knight Sorrow studied his alchemy skills leisurely. He also did business, which was exchanging alchemy pills for ingredients, and ingredients for alchemy pills. His soul power was strong, and even Chu Danxuan's alchemy speed couldn't compare to him. Amongst the 1,000+ disciples of the Heavenly Cauldron sect's West Radiance Peak, Yishang had become an exception. He was someone that no one loved, and because Chu Danxian looked down on, no one paid any attention to Yishang. Occasionally, he would be troubled, but Knight Sorrow would just laugh it off. Although he was young, he had already passed the age of showing off. His state of mind wasn't something that ordinary people could understand. Even if he was provoked by a rank 4 cultivator and said a few unpleasant words, he would just laugh it off. In addition, he wouldn't refuse anyone who asked him for help. After a long time, Knight Sorrow's reputation in the West Radiance Peak became better. In addition, everyone knew that Knight Sorrow's alchemy skills were very high. For alchemy pills below the saint rank, Knight Sorrow had never failed to refine them. Some people also knew the reason why Knight Sorrow wasn't welcomed. It was because he wasn't willing to take the Peak Master as his master. This made many people admire him, because many people didn't have such an opportunity even if they racked their brains. In the blink of an eye, Knight Sorrow had arrived at the Tianding Gate for 3 years. His alchemy skills had already reached the Saint King level. Now, he was studying formations. If it wasn't for that, Knight Sorrow might have left the Tianding Gate to explore. The Tianding Gate's rules weren't strict, and it could even be said that they were very loose. As long as you didn't betray the Tianding Gate, you could go out and explore at any time and come back at any time. However, you must lend a hand when something happened to the Tianding Gate. On the other hand, Knight Sorrow and Elder Xiang had become friends despite the difference in age. They often drank tea together. However, Knight Sorrow's main body's comprehension of the will of heaven and earth wasn't enough. He knew that this was normal. If it was so easy to comprehend, then the king's realm would be everywhere. Just as Night Sorrow was planning to send some alchemy pills to the main body and some resources to the 9 regions world, Chu Danxian found Night Sorrow. I plan to participate in the Alchemist Conference. You will accompany me as my assistant. Chu Danxian said to Night Sorrow. My West Radiance Peak has many elders who are better at alchemy than me. I'll pass. Yishan didn't want to join in the fun, and he just wanted to cultivate in peace. Tangs. S is for you, why do you have so for you? I don't care if you are Ku Kai or Tang Yuan. Go to the side. Who do you think you are? Go to someone else. Don't talk nonsense with me. Night Sorrow looked at Tang Yuan and roared. His aura subconsciously suppressed Tang Yuan and forced her to retreat. I can go and do what an assistant should do. But please remember, don't disturb my cultivation after this. Night Sorrow finished roaring at Tang Yuan and looked at Chu Danxian. Chu Danxian nodded. She was also helpless. It wasn't suitable to ask some elders to be his assistant. Firstly, they might not be willing to be a supporting role. Furthermore, she had some understanding of Night Sorrow's alchemy skills. No matter if it was his proficiency or technique, no one else could compare to him at the level of an alchemy grandmaster. The Alchemist Union was an independent force in the profound sky world. Any alchemy grandmaster could join. The Alchemist Union would often hold a conference to promote exchanges. This time, the conference was held at the Big Dipper city that Night Sorrow often traded at. That was the capital city of the Big Dipper Empire. Night Sorrow had mentioned this matter to Old Xiang when he was chatting with him. Looking at Night Sorrow, Old Xiang smiled, then you can go. It's not good for you to be too calm at such a young age. Young people should be full of vigor and vitality. In fact, you could have signed up yourself. There's no point in fighting for fame and fortune. I can do it myself, I don't need the approval of others. Night Sorrow shook his head and said. You're right, but it's not comprehensive enough. For example, if you're a monarch-grade alchemist and someone wants to refine a monarch-grade medicinal pill, wouldn't they have to look for you and pay a huge price? Wouldn't that be a great help to you? Elder Xiang said. Night Sorrow thanks Old Xiang for his guidance. Night Sorrow nodded to Old Xiang. There was still some time before the alchemist assembly began, so Night Sorrow continued to study alchemy. His alchemy skills had already reached the same level as his cultivation, and he had already become a high-grade Saint King-grade alchemist. It could be said that in the absence of King-grade alchemists, his alchemy skills were outstanding. After finishing another round of alchemy, Yang Kai poured himself a pot of heart-cleansing tea to taste when Chu Danxian came to call Night Sorrow to set off. The mysterious Heaven World's transmission arrays were quite developed, so after a few teleportations, Chu Danxian brought Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan to Big Dipper City and settled down in an inn. After settling down, Night Sorrow went to the city's largest medicine store. Little friend, the materials you requested have already been prepared, so we don't owe you anything, an old man inside the medicine store said with a smile. I brought some pills this time, old Zhang, you still owe me, Night Sorrow said with a smile. That's not necessarily the case, this time we've obtained some top-grade materials. Old Zhang smiled and led Night Sorrow into the VIP room. You say that every time, I don't believe you, Old Zhang, Night Sorrow said as he sat down. He was a VIP here and was very familiar with Old Zhang, so he spoke very casually. Alright, but I can give you a piece of news, this time there really are some top-grade treasures appearing, King-grade Silver Dragon Bone and Silver Dragon Blood Essence. Silver Dragon Bone is a top-grade artifact refining material. You can't obtain it, but the Dragon Blood Essence is only for top-grade alchemists who need it, no one will touch it. You can try, the auction will be tomorrow, Old Zhang said. I don't have much capital, Night Sorrow really wanted the Dragon Blood Essence, it was a supplementary material for his myriad Dao Tomes cultivation. Let's go take a look, the auction house can't miss out, Old Zhang said with a smile. Night Sorrow nodded, going to take a look was free, and if he couldn't afford it, he wouldn't lose any money. When they returned to the inn, Night Sorrow was faced with Chu Danxuan's dissatisfied gaze. Knight Sorrow didn't mind, or rather, he was already used to it. There are only 7 days left until the alchemist assembly. I don't want any accidents, Chu Danxian said coldly. After returning to his room, Knight Sorrow counted his assets. In the past, he had over 30 Holy Spirit stones, but after years of accumulating wealth through alchemy, he had only accumulated 60. In other words, if the Silver Dragon blood essence exceeded 60 Holy Spirit stones, he would have to give it up. Knight Sorrow quietly rested in the inn for a day, then followed old Zhang to the auction house. The auction house's security was very strict, and it could be said that no one could enter without a number plate. This was Big Dipper King's territory, so no one dared to mess around. Knight Sorrow and old Zhang sat down and waited for the auction to begin. However, something that disgusted Knight Sorrow appeared, and that was that Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan also appeared in the auction house. #KV. One is the real deal, while the others are pirated versions. Knight Sorrow had no choice, as he couldn't leave. He felt that these two women were ghosts with ill intentions. While Knight Sorrow was thinking, Chu Danxian also saw Knight Sorrow. Her eyes were filled with confusion, then anger, because Knight Sorrow's seat was much more honorable than hers. Speak. Chapter 971. Knight Sorrow turned his head to the side and pretended not to see Chu Danxian. He didn't care about that anymore. He could do whatever he wanted. He was a disciple of the Tianding Gate, but he didn't need to care about anyone's feelings. Knight Sorrow wasn't afraid of being expelled. He hadn't done anything to betray the Tianding Gate. If Chu Danxian wanted to find trouble with him, he had no choice but to accept it. The auction items were sold one by one. When it came to the silver dragon bone, it reached its climax. This is the bone of a fallen king-level silver dragon. We don't know how it died, but a king sent it to be auctioned. Its authenticity is guaranteed by our Big Dipper auction house's 10,000 years of reputation. The auctioneer gave a simple introduction. His words were simple, but everyone understood what he meant. The owner of the Big Dipper auction house was Big Dipper King. Would Big Dipper King auction fake goods? Of course not. In the end, the silver dragon bone was sold for 300 Saint Spirit stones. This made Knight Sorrow feel embarrassed. Back in the Nine Regions world, Knight Sorrow felt that he wasn't lacking in anything. Now, however, he felt like a country bumpkin. Knight Sorrow didn't have much hope for the silver dragon blood. There were too many rich people in the profound heaven world. If others wanted it, he couldn't compete. The starting price of the silver dragon blood was 30 Saint Spirit stones. Knight Sorrow raised his hand and bid 40 Saint Spirit stones. Every bid had to be at least 10 Saint Spirit stones. What surprised Knight Sorrow was that no one bid. That was 3 whole chunks of silver dragon blood. The auctioneer called out 3 times. Knight Sorrow felt that time was passing very slowly. Only when the auctioneer's hammer fell on the table did someone call out a bid. However, it was already too late. What's going on? You managed to get it? The elder looked at Knight Sorrow in surprise. He had brought Knight Sorrow here to take a look, but he hadn't expected that Knight Sorrow would actually manage to get it. I didn't know that no one would bid for the silver dragon blood, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Knight Sorrow then noticed that Chu Danxian had bid for 2 alchemy ingredients. However, they were both at the starting price of 20 Saint Spirit stones. After the auction ended, Knight Sorrow paid the Saint Spirit stones and obtained the 3 chunks of silver dragon blood essence. Young man, you really know your stuff. This old man was still thinking about the silver dragon bone in a daze and actually missed it. At the entrance of the auction house, the old man who had bid late greeted Yishan. I'm sorry, but this is really important to me, Yishang said apologetically. Hee, don't worry. A gentleman doesn't take away someone else's love. This is yours. The old man smiled and left. Yishan said goodbye to Elder Zhang and returned to the inn. Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan appeared in Night Sorrow's room as soon as they entered the inn. "You're very rich. Is there a problem?" Night Sorrow replied indifferently. Night Sorrow didn't like Chu Danxuan's tone. "How can you say that?" Tang Yuan saw that Night Sorrow was a little unconvinced and directly said. "Then how can I say that? I can't enter the auction house or can't have Saint Spirit stones. Also, look after yourself. Don't ask for no reason. You don't have the right." Night Sorrow looked at Tang Yuan and replied. "As an elder, I can't even ask." Chu Danxian replied to Night Sorrow. "There's a limit to everything. No one is a fool, and no one will always have a good temper. Don't scare me with the threat of being expelled from the sect. You know I don't care." Yi Shang didn't want to hold back anymore, because these two women had no bottom line. "You're very good," Chu Danxian said and brought Tang Yuan back to her room. "Master, what's the point of expelling him from the sect?" Tang Yuan said somewhat indignantly. Chu Danxian glanced at Tang Yuan and said with dissatisfaction, "After this alchemy conference, you have to work harder. If you're capable, would Master need to give face to him?" Night Sorrow's soul strength enveloped the entire inn, and he clearly heard Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan's words. He knew that his days in the West Radiance Peak were coming to an end. It wasn't that he wouldn't stay any longer even if Chu Danxian didn't expel him from the sect. The two of them had no bottom line. His master, Chu Danxian, had no bottom line. Tang Yuan, or rather, Jiao Kuai, her parents had died early, and she lacked education. Night Sorrow disdained to be associated with them. Since he'd thought things through, he naturally didn't mind. Night Sorrow studied the silver dragon blood essence for a moment and felt extremely satisfied. Because these 3 pieces of silver dragon blood essence were very large. Any one of them was the size of a millstone and contained extremely dense energy. After staying for a few days, Chu Danxian brought Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan to the plaza of the Alchemist Guild. The alchemy conference was being held here. All the alchemists that had registered would refine medicinal pills together. The winner would receive generous rewards and the Pill King medal from the Alchemist Guild. This alchemy conference was only held once every 300 years, so it was rather grand, and there were many alchemists that came. Night Sorrow noticed that there were at least 200 people participating, and each person could bring 2 assistants. There were 9 long tables in front of each official participant. On the first table, there were 3 alchemy furnaces and alchemy materials, and the tables behind were also filled with materials. Night Sorrow also understood the rules. The 9 long tables represented 9 grades. The first table was filled with medicinal materials for Tier 1 pills, the second table was filled with materials for Tier 2 pills, and so on. If the materials on the 5th table were successfully refined, one would be an alchemy grandmaster, and if the materials on the 6th table were successfully refined, one would be an alchemy grandmaster. If the materials on the 7th table were successfully refined, one would be a saint-grade alchemist, and the 8th table corresponded to a saint-king-grade alchemist. The 9th table was an empty table, which represented a king-grade alchemist. King-grade alchemists wouldn't participate in such a conference. Even if they did, it would be the Pill Monarch Conference, which was held once every 1,000 years. This conference would produce 3 Pill Kings, Amethyst Pill King, Golden Pill King, and Silver Pill King, which corresponded to the top 3. In addition, after breaking through to the level of Alchemy Grandmaster, there would be elders of the Alchemist Union who would ask questions about alchemy. Only those who passed could continue to refine pills. This was to prevent alchemists who were not skilled enough from wasting materials. Night Sorrow saw Ji Ting and cupped his hands to greet him. Ji Ting also responded with a smile. After worshipping the pill god, everyone stood in their positions. After a person wearing a robe with pill patterns lit the incense, the participants began to refine pills. If they didn't refine pills within the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, they would fail. Night Sorrow saw the seriousness of the alchemy conference. Refining Tier 1 pills had eliminated more than a dozen people, not for anything else, but because of carelessness and flaws in the pills. Pills are for people to eat. Alchemists should have a sincere attitude. If your father and mother ate pills, would they also refine pills like this? Ting reprimanded the losers and directly drove them out of the arena. Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan had nothing to do with refining low-level pills. They were just going through the motions. When refining saint-grade pills, Chu Danxian needed the cooperation of the two. Night Sorrow knew Chu Danxuan's level. She could refine saint-grade mid-rank pills, but she didn't have the opportunity to refine high-level pills. Speak. Chapter 972. This was because Chu Danxian had never succeeded in refining the 5-spirit pill. She was a level 6 saint, so her spiritual strength was not enough. Even if she had an assistant, it was still not enough. After some people were eliminated in the first tier, everyone became more cautious. They did not dare to be careless, which led to very few people being eliminated. Night Sorrow and Tang Yuan followed Chu Danxian. As long as it was not a level 6 pill, Chu Danxian did not need an assistant. Night Sorrow did not care about Tang Yuan and other people trying to curry favor with her. The level 6 pill was the Origin Spirit pill, while the level 6 pill was the Yuan Qing pill. Now, alchemy grandmasters needed to refine the Yuan Qing pill. In the alchemist assembly, there was no need to refine low-level pills of every grade, only high-level pills. This way, the alchemist who passed the assessment would be at the pinnacle of this level. The Alchemist Union opened their mouths and asked some questions about the refining techniques of the Yuan Qing pill. As the questions were asked, some people were eliminated. This was because they could not refine the Yuan Qing pill in theory. Chu Danxian naturally had no problems. She came from the Tianding Gate, so she could refine both in theory and practice. In practice, many people were eliminated. Some of the alchemists were alchemy grandmasters, but they had not reached the peak. Although they could refine the pill in theory, they could not refine it in practice. Next was the refining of the Saint Grade 5 Spirit pill. Following that, the elders of the Alchemist Union would ask questions. Following that, the Alchemist Union's elders would ask questions. Following that, one after another, the Alchemist Union's alchemists fell off their horses. In order to refine the 5-spirit pill, one needed to be a high-level saint-grade alchemist. The one who asked Chu Danxian was Ting. Ting smiled and nodded at Night Sorrow. Ting began to ask questions, but when it came to the fusion of the supplementary materials and the main materials, Ting shook his head in dissatisfaction and announced that Chu Danxian was disqualified. "Hello, Elder, I wonder if I can add on." Night Sorrow saw Chu Danxuan's disappointment and cupped his hands towards Ting. "If you can answer correctly, I can give you a chance." Ting nodded. "I'll give her a chance." Night Sorrow pointed at Chu Danxian. "No, she's wrong in theory. It's impossible for her to complete the refinement. Come, I want to hear your answer." Ting glanced at Chu Danxian and shook his head. After sighing, Night Sorrow explained the situation of the 5-spirit pill and where Chu Danxian made a mistake. Very good answer. You may proceed to the next round and try to concoct the 5-spirit pill. Of course, with your cultivation, failure is certain. I will personally pay for the ingredients. Young people need opportunities. Ting said to Night Sorrow. He had a good impression of Night Sorrow. Just based on Night Sorrow's apology after winning the Silver Dragon Blood Essence, he liked it very much. Night Sorrow didn't have the arrogance of a young man. That Night Sorrow will not disappoint the elders. After listening to Ting's words, Night Sorrow's heart was touched. Ting had perfectly explained what it meant to be a person of virtue and prestige, what it meant to be magnanimous. "Sorry, I won't be your assistant." Chu Danxian coldly snorted and retreated to the competition seat behind the first table. Tang Yuan also left. An old man on the main seat closed his eyes in disappointment. The other elders of the Alchemist Union also shook their heads. Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan's actions had lost their bearing. Night Sorrow didn't mind because he didn't need an assistant to concoct the Saint King high-level spirit perception pill. The Saint Level 5 spirit pill wasn't difficult for him. The old man wearing a long robe lit a very thick incense stick and the 7th round of the examination began. Night Sorrow stood in front of the long table and tidied up his robe. He then closed his eyes and nodded to the furnace. He then began to concoct the 5 spirit pill. Night Sorrow's 2 alchemy furnaces started at the same time. One refining the main ingredient, the other refining the auxiliary ingredient. Everything was coordinated and natural. This young man is not bad. Although his cultivation is low and he will definitely fail, his bearing and technique are excellent. The most important thing is that his attitude is correct. He will definitely grow up in the future. An old man sitting beside Jiting said. Elder Tan, it's still too early to say that. Cultivation limits an alchemist's grade, but don't forget about talent. Some alchemists with good talent and powerful soul force can skip ranks to concoct pills. The old man who was disappointed in Chu Danxian said. Elder Xiang is right. Elder Tan bowed to the old man. Night Sorrow heard their conversation. This made him less worried because even if he succeeded, it could be explained by talent. At this time, the 30 or so alchemists who were still persevering all had assistants. So what if they had assistants? Their refining speed was not as fast as Night Sorrow's. Although Night Sorrow's alchemy fire was average, it was very stable and didn't affect his refining speed. Night Sorrow continued to refine the main ingredients while the auxiliary ingredients were refined one by one and fused with the main ingredients. Everything was done naturally and harmoniously by Night Sorrow. 4 hours later, Night Sorrow waved his sleeve and opened his alchemy furnace. Energy wrapped around the pills and they fell into a jade bottle. He also left 1 pill on a jade plate for the Alchemist Guild's upper echelon to inspect. After using his alchemy fire to clean the alchemy furnace, Night Sorrow once again closed his eyes and nodded towards the alchemy furnace. He then took a few steps back. Elder Tan, can any of you do better than him? Elder Xiang looked at Elder Tan and asked. Yes, people like him are born to refine pills. Elder Tan nodded. Following that was the evaluation of the pills. The Alchemist Guild was very satisfied with Night Sorrow's pills. Because Night Sorrow was refining them alone, the main ingredients and auxiliary ingredients were refined at the same temperature. That was why the 5 spirit pill was incomparably smooth. Very good. I really didn't misjudge you. Ji Ting looked at Night Sorrow with satisfaction. Let's not talk about other things. Night Sorrow can't disappoint the expectations of the elders. I can't let down the teachings and support of the elders. Night Sorrow said. Young people like you are becoming fewer and fewer. Don't talk about quitting. If you pass the examination, I am still willing to give you a set of alchemy materials to let you continue. Ji Ting seemed to have seen through Night Sorrow's thoughts and directly spoke his mind. At this time, another person came over to re-register Night Sorrow. Tianding Gate, Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow reported his name. Who is your master? Ji Ting asked. Speaking of which, my previous honored master didn't really refine pills. When I was at the Tianding Gate, I didn't have an honored master. Night Sorrow hesitated and said. He wouldn't lie. After listening to Night Sorrow's words, Ji Ting and the Alchemist Guild elder were both stunned. Night Sorrow, with his aptitude, actually didn't have an honored master. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, come, next is the Saint King Grade Pill Assessment. This king can't actually refine it, but I know the theory, so don't answer incorrectly. Ji Ting returned to the main topic. Ji Ting asked about the theory of refining the Spirit Comprehension Pill. Night Sorrow had refined a few Spirit Comprehension pills, so he naturally answered without any problems. At this time, Chu Danxian and Tang Yuan's faces were blue and white. Speak, you're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.